All right, good afternoon. We are back in session and continuing with our budget deliberation work. So, Ted, I'll let you start off with, you always give us changes and what occurred and the ramifications of that, so.
Yes, so we have given you a much smaller package here today. The first page is just captures choices that you made in the last session, refers to a discussion items handout, which will be the second page. And then there have been 2 requests for more information. You talked with the health department this morning. I know Roberta was making arrangements with the state's attorney. I have not heard if anything has been arranged or not.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one either, so.
On the second page, we just tried to organize this a little bit. You see, water and sewer rates is something we said needed to get talked about where you've taken an action, so we just noted that. The next column says this budget. These are ones you might not technically need to do something in this budget, but we're saying they're kind of relevant to this budget. And then the last one would be things I think need to be on our minds, and it's not that you couldn't act on them in this budget, but there are things that probably can be addressed in the future. Now, Commissioner Frazier, you said we had
on this the first page where it says reduce ag pres funding in FY 23 to 25. You have that just because this is only a 5-year projection? Because what the motion was, I think, was 23 going forward.
Okay, right. This is only capturing what's in here.
In this 5-year budget, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, just, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you may have noticed there was some rearrangement of people here. There's no truth to the rumor that they wanted to get further away from you.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sure.
they requested to sit up here so they could better see you as you're.
I'm sure that was it.
And watch the Orioles
like
score as it comes in.
It's like a satellite view. Is that what you're trying to do up there? Uh-huh.
Better see us.
Google Earth view of us down here?
That's the box seats.
They're trying to intimidate you with the
Yeah.
They want to keep an eye on you.
Well, Lynn already gave me one of these, so Okay. All right. So, there you go. ESP, I love it, Deb. I was going to say, can you provide that bottom line as to where we left off as it pertains to the reductions that we have made to this point?
Yep, this is not Deb's first rodeo.
I got that. Okay.
We are somewhat limited with this smaller screen now, so
Right.
if we need to scroll up and down, you just need
Okay,
to let us
yep,
know
we got that.
what you're looking for.
Okay.
The color palette, you just hard to see.
Yeah, I know, that pink behind it makes it really tough.
You got the text shadow, white shadow, which I think is
Hang on.
distorting it, so.
You see better?
Pan down. We
You just scroll back.
scroll
back up.
Scroll up or down, Deb, one way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
little better,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a little better. Yep.
Actually, let me see if I can make it bigger. I might be able to make it larger.
Make the numbers bigger, does that mean we have more money?
If only that was true.
Keep going.
If only.
Size
Okay.
100 font.
All right. So here's where we are right now, and we have been, I think, down through some of the recommended reductions that Ted and his folks had provided to us, and I think we kind of went to the end of the line there. So I guess it's time now to review those, and perhaps get into some questions about some of the other categories that aren't on here, as to where our numbers are. I don't know if anybody has anything. I've got a hard question for Ted, but if I don't want to overshadow that question with anything that you all specifically have, but, Ted, we're in the middle of this, and, I've said that we've done nothing here but reduce, which is unlike all of the years that I've been involved here. So I guess my hard question to you is, number one, have you seen anything from the state that has led you to believe that there would be a change in revenue numbers or other areas?
Only the 911 fee, but we've already taken a first step in addressing that.
Okay.
I think I told you last time, we increased the expected revenue from 1.1 to 2.7 million dollars. That's based only on the change from per bill to per device.
So that does not reflect a change in increase of the current fee that we have, if we needed to do that?
No, it doesn't. But I don't think we can act on that yet.
Okay.
My understanding is that we need to see if the increase we're going to get from the per device change covers our costs. If
Right.
it does, then it's not in our hands to raise the rate. If it comes up short, then we can make a choice to raise the rate.
Okay. And I only ask that question as it pertains to the fact that there were, on our positions list, there was a request for additional positions at our 911 center.
Yes.
And in the hopes that that funding comes through, we would be able to apply the increase or the added revenue from going from bill to device that would cover those 4 positions, if we wanted to add those positions.
Right. And the difficulty we have now, and it's possible, I said we went from 1.1 to 2.7. I think it's quite possible it will be more than 2.7, but we have no hard information on what this change is going to be, because we don't know how many devices are out there. So it's hard to, we felt comfortable telling you 2.7, because we really say it'd be tough to think it's not going to be that much.
Right, okay,
It might
so-
be more.
So that leads to the question of, in the middle of fiscal '20, if the revenue comes in as we hope that it does, we could add positions at that time, in lieu of adding them now with nowhere to be able to finance them.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay,
But we do have $230,000 for new positions. and
understand that.
That's already in there.
Right, understand that, but that's
Unless you're
nowhere.
looking at other positions instead.
Well, I'm looking at that, Dennis, as an alternative to putting those
Right.
aside for a bit until we see the whatever the results of that increase in that next-gen funding. Not to put them off because they're needed, but to delay it if we can. That's my point.
Okay.
So
Which would give us the opportunity then to highlight a couple of the other positions.
Other positions, right.
Okay?
And if we followed that path, what would happen is we could see how the revenue's coming in. Now, unfortunately, do we get this, do we see it monthly or quarterly?
Quarterly,
That's what I
and
thought.
we see half of it after the end of the year.
So we don't have a lot of visibility, but we
Right.
could at the halfway point say, well, it looks like we're on our way to 3.3, not 2.7.
Right.
And you could choose to then spend money you hadn't planned to spend. We could do one or two things at that point. You could take money out of the reserve for contingency to fund those positions, knowing now that we have more revenue than we expected, and we used more than we expected, so no net effect to your bottom line. If we don't want to deplete the reserve for contingencies, you could actually open the budget up to be amended to recognize a new revenue and a new expenditure.
Okay.
That means, public hearing, the same sort of
Right.
thing you would go through
Right.
for the budget.
Okay. So in the interest of continuing on the revenue area that I've been speaking about, and Ted, I've worked with you for a long time, so I remember the days when you were an analyst and I was sitting at visa and we were going through our budget, so that's, in my mind, a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I'm going to ask this respectfully, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
You don't even have to be respectful if you don't want to.
Well, your revenue projections and the confidence that you have in those projections, is there any possibility that you would consider adjusting those at this point?
My short answer, what I consider is no. The reason I say that, and we've spent a lot of time talking about this, struggled with a lot of ideas, and where we are right now, if I had to say, is there more upside to where we've left things or more downside? I think there's more downside. And that doesn't mean that things can't get better. And again, the big wild card here is income tax.
Right.
And I've told you all previously, if income tax came in $3 million higher than we projected or $3 million lower than we projected, I wouldn't be surprised either way. There's that much uncertainty about where we are. But when I look at each of our revenues, where we are with what we know, I would not be able to say to you, yes, I think we can increase revenues. Now, if the board says, thank you for your thoughts, but we want to increase the revenues, I'll do what you tell me to do. But
That was part B of my question, Ted.
But I can't encourage it. If you went there, I would say, I don't agree with you doing it, but, it's your
That's our
call.
responsibility. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we take the advice, but I mean, it comes down to our decision making.
Yeah, this is, it's on our shoulders, so I want to make sure that people realize the ramifications of that if we would make that decision.
Well, Ted's very conservative in his estimates, which is good, I appreciate that. But anything that comes in and changes later, as you said, we can go back and make some changes. If it's 6 months into the year, all of a sudden, things turn around.
We could.
And,
I don't mean to cut you off, but I will. He's got the expertise, he's been doing this for years. I mean, we could, if you wanted to, we could just move them up by whatever those deficits are for each of those years, and we're good.
Okay, so
But
I would
I'm
never
just
say,
saying.
yeah, I know that, but
But-
I would never suggest
No,
that,
but I'm
Dennis.
just
My-
saying- And I'm not saying you are.
No,
But
my-
that certainly would be an easy way to do the budget, and we can put anything we want in it, but we
No.
get so much trouble.
My only thoughts on that suggestion would be merely if we get this close, we'd be able to have that ability to just go, okay.
This is where they stand.
And I don't know what this close means, but it could be as this close as, 500,000 or something. You know where I'm
Right, I
going?
got you. Yeah, I'm not suggesting you were saying just throw it out and we'll
Right.
do whatever we want here.
Right.
I'll wait till my last year before we do that.
Okay, just on the idea that I'm being conservative, which is true, if we're wrong, I want us to be on the wrong side, on the right side of being wrong.
Wrong, correct.
But I don't want to leave an impression that these numbers are what they are just because I'm being conservative. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, if anything, I'm still a little worried that we're too high with worry. And in recent years, and this is part of, we've talked about, reducing our projections several times. In recent years, my worry is that we have been projecting too high in order to keep from handcuffing your decisions.
Okay.
You couldn't do that one more year?
So that's the hard question coming out now. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? On that idea? Okay, does anyone have any areas where they would like to visit?
See, I had an area, but when I talked to staff about it, I realized it really wasn't an area, so.
Okay, and I think
That's
you and
out.
I had a little discussion, and
Right.
I think I know where that was. Hearing nothing right now, could you pull up, Deb, the and I had mentioned this on Tuesday, the pavement management and the numbers that are projected there.
You got it on the list, didn't you?
You're asking me?
Yeah. I don't know if it's on the list.
I would ask you that.
So do you want me to go to the capital page itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be beneficial, because I'm going to propose, I think I'm going to propose something here in an attempt to try to get us to a closer place.
Okay, fiscal year '20, it's $12.7 million, growing to $15.9 million in
What page you on?
2025. That's page 55 of the budget summary.
I'm actually on, what page are you on? 55.
55 of the smaller book.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I got it.
Why am I not on that page?
Wrong book. Other blue book.
I was in the wrong book myself.
Okay,
Okay.
and you're looking at the 12,066,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's up on the screen now.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the other.
So what's the,
Right, so my numbers aren't, oh, yeah, I got it, never mind, I got it, I'm good. Numbers are so small, this
so what's your
book, I've got it.
suggestion?
So, just to the rest of my colleagues, I studied all these numbers again last night ad nauseum, and met with some staff this morning in reference to this. And I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that, you know, we are at a point here where I'm not sure where we're looking anymore. I'm really not. And if we're going to start looking at people, and we've already looked at things that I'm very uncomfortable with, I'll be honest with you, we've taken money away from Not and Carroll, which I think is awful. You know, we all make a big deal about the opioid and drug issue, but yet y'all voted to take money away from that program. So I'm uncomfortable with that. But we're getting to places where it's almost going to come down to where it affects people. So in my mind, I'd rather affect stuff as it pertains to people. So
I have to agree with you on that. I think you're going in the right direction on this.
Well, let's see if we are. So I work with staff, and I want to give a kudos to them for the questions that I asked. And they proposed to me a possible change in these numbers. And of course, it's all going to be up to you guys as well. I mean, you know, so in FY '20, it's proposed to be 12,660, and I would say leave that alone. In '21, the number is 13,120, and if you can plug this in as we go, Deb.
Okay, well, before she starts plugging it, I need to give you a complication. It might not be
Okay.
as straightforward as you think.
All right, yeah, okay.
This is funded with highway user revenue and with bonds.
Okay,
To actually free up money for you to do something else, if it's highway user revenue, we'd have to find another place that's eligible for highway user revenue that currently has cash. And we might be able to do it, but it's not going to be a lot of money.
okay,
You know, we're talking about, you know, hundreds of thousands, not millions. And with bonds, if we don't do a road, don't sell bonds, we will save some cash, but you won't be saving $1 million, you'd be saving $90,000 a year or something.
and I get that. So maybe that leads to the question, in our books, we've got reallocated bonds in '20 of 1.1 million. And then nothing shown in '21 through '25.
Well, there are bonds, just not not reallocated bonds.
Okay.
Yeah, where you see reallocated bonds, that just means we had it on another project, they weren't needed.
So we
and
put them, okay.
Moved them to another place.
Got it. And as it pertains to the highway user revenue, I see that that's 404,000 in 20 and 800,000 through 24 each year. Now, couldn't you take that out? And I think you answered it maybe, but couldn't you take that out and apply it somewhere else?
Yes, but probably not that much. I mean, the reason most of it's here is because this is where the biggest cost is. Like, we were talking a little bit earlier, we think there's some storm drain stuff that has cash on it now where you could put highway user revenue, but it's not this magnitude.
Okay. All right, well, I'm suggesting that we reduce our pavement management by about 5 mil over the next 3 years to try to get these numbers where they need to be. I don't know how the rest of that's going to work, but it's just a suggestion. So I'm going to give these, and then we'll see what the ramifications are as what I'm attempting to do here. So,
5 million.
well, so let me give you the
Each year?
breakdown. Actually, it's about 4.75, I think, Deb, but the way that it's broken down. In FY '21, the recommended was 13,120. And we make that 13 million, so 120,000 there. In '22, the ask is 13,770, and the ask, or I'm suggesting 12,5. And then in '23, the ask is 14,375. And I'm suggesting 11. And then 24 and 25 would stay the same, which would sort of be a way of looking at, we're getting back to what we need to do. And again, I'm trying to find every little penny here that we can. That's all. And I'm not trying to override the tremendous amount of work that our budget analysts have done with these departments either. But you know where we are here, Ted, so that's why.
Okay, well, Heidi is looking right now to try and determine where do we have places where we might be able to move highway user revenue and free up some cash.
I got some gravel roads I'll throw at you, Heidi. You looking at me, Heidi?
She's working.
Once we determine how much we could free up there, we can subtract that from your total change.
Okay.
Say we would issue that much less in bonds, and then we could say approximately what that frees up.
Okay.
The debt service that we would have paid.
And again, this is just a proposal, gentlemen. I'm not, in the interest of trying to find what we need to find here to get it. And I will point out, we're all pretty smart. That, we're, for 8, 9, 10 hours now, we've been reducing. We haven't done anything.
Well, so I think what we need to, because I think every one of us have studied these numbers overnight and looked at this very deliberately. And we're all doing the same yeoman's work in trying to figure this out. To me, I think we need to start looking at the projects that were brought to our attention and come to a realization whether we want to keep them moving forward or take them away, and then I'll limit our focus on what, the pluses and minuses, what we're going to be doing.
Define projects.
Personnel. We had staff come to us, say we need an IT personnel for whoever. Are we going to be moving forward, and I'm throwing IT that, it could be the contingency positions, it could be any of those positions. Are we going to start addressing those, saying, hey, let's just take those off the table at this point?
But they're not in the budget.
I understand, but they're part of the equation of what we want to get to.
Well, I understand that, but
It's not just getting this budget zeroed out to then moving forward, but it's also understanding what are the requirements, after that. we're gonna have to address it sometime. So,
But right now, we're trying to reduce, Ed.
I see what you're saying.
yeah, but.
I understand where you're
get that,
going.
and I understand where you're going also, that we want to reduce, I got that. But I think we can't just do one thing and then do the other. I think we have to be prepared to have the discussion on both ends. And maybe, that burn both ends of the candle, I don't know, but
So then, unless I'm missing your point, you're suggesting we take that 230,000 out and forget personnel altogether?
possibly, or
Is that what you're saying?
possibly, or look at the personnel, because 230,000 ain't a whole lot of personnel, So it maybe just be, well, we're getting to a sticking point at some level. Let's look at the requirements, start lobbying them either off or putting them on, and then we just keep working. I mean, let's keep the momentum going in the discussion as opposed to still trying to dive into this right this second.
But if we don't dive into this and get it to where it needs to be, I'm not sure where we're going to be able to go.
Well, I think there are certain requirements that were brought to our attention that are very high-level priority requirements, and we want to address those.
Like what?
Sheriff's disability was a priority, I think, to every one of us as we stood here
Okay.
the other day. The 3% raise, or 5%, whatever, there were certain, I guess,
But if you're,
efforts.
okay, but if you're going to plug that in, then our numbers are further apart.
I know, I agree.
So I'm not sure,
We got to, we can't just start with zeroing our budget out and then moving forward. We got to look at what are the requirements and moving forward, and then also have the ability to address.
so you're suggesting we stop all the things that we have done to this point, plug in the things that we have set as priorities, and then go back to trying to balance?
Somewhat, somewhat, yeah. And I mean, you can look, quizzical, I'm looking at what are the requirements that we want to,
Okay.
I mean, sure.
No, that's fine.
I'm looking at, 5 years down, what are the requirements we have? Then why did we have folks come in and tell us these are things that are the must-haves? Let's,
Well, that's the way, that's typically the direction that we've always given everyone.
right?
And remember, those folks that come in to give us that direction, they are not in tune with the numbers as we are. They're coming in asking without
course.
knowing that
Right.
we started off at minus whatever it was.
Right. I
So-
got that, but if,
So
but can't we make
And I-
decisions on some of those requirements?
well, sure, we can, but if we do that, then that's going to bring
Well-
everything back up.
What's that? That's
So-
right. And that's okay. We gotta, look at how to bring the budget down to a certain point, how to then look at the requirements moving forward. It will create a larger number, but it's things that we're gonna still have to
See,
address.
I-
We're either gonna do it
Yeah.
now, later,
Well, I see it
or-
the other way. That's what I was seeing it, that we try to get to a place where we have some extra, where we could address some of the things that we had put on our priority list. That's the way that I was looking at it.
Well,
Well, let's see where this comes out first. And then decide.
The challenge, because I agree with you about the pavement piece, but I think the challenge is it's too, I want to see how it's going to be addressed, but it's not as large of a number, I think, as
Ted, you look like a game show host.
we think it should be. So.
Yeah, I understand where you're going,
Well-
Ed. I do. I just think that line of thinking with this gets us at a further apart place.
At this point, it will. At this point, on Thursday, it will. But it'll bring more of the attention of where we see our requirements, where we see what we have to peel away in the current budget, and then moving forward. I mean, this is not, we're not going to level this out today.
I believe it's fine.
And so at least we're putting as much on the table going into the weekend as we can.
Well, if my colleagues want to go that route, I'm good with that. Plug everything in we want to plug in, and then kind of start over again on Tuesday.
Well, it's not so much starting, there's absolutely no starting over.
Well, there is if we do it your method.
No, it's not. It's not
No, we're not
starting
gonna go back to what we,
No, it's not
we're
starting
not changing what we've done.
No.
I don't think that's what
No.
Ed's saying here.
I'd
you're
really,
Not at all.
I'd really like to hear what
Yeah, let's go
Mr.
here.
Zaleski has to say here. He's got a presentation, I believe, for us.
I kind of like the game show idea.
You're the
why
next
they're giving out prizes.
contestant.
That's a clip-on, Pat.
Need Vanna White.
That's one I'm scared of.
Okay, just a couple seconds, we're kind of working this on the fly.
Hold on.
But I really do like the idea of looking at the capital budget. I think that's a good place to look.
So it would be these two lines, 93 and 98.
Okay, I don't want to say this is our final answer, because we just done this quick, but it should be in the ballpark. Highway user revenue, we have one place where we have cash, we could move highway user revenue. That's this line here. So it'd buy 139,000 in the first year, growing to about 156 in the last year. Then figuring, again, very quickly, debt service impact from the changes that you suggested. And remember, you don't get that impact immediately because we issue the bonds pretty much after we've sold, and then you only pay one debt service payment in the first year, et cetera. But here's what you would get in the debt service impact. It's $2.6 million.
Oh, well, wait a second. You only wanted to reduce in 21, 22, and 23, is that correct?
Correct.
So I can't take the highway user revenue from these years. So,
But I'm prepared to go further if need be. In the hopes that these things that we are reducing, if we see an uptick in revenue, we plug back in order to get them back to where they were suggested.
okay.
Okay, no, we've had no time to talk about this, so, okay.
Well, I understand
If
that. That's why.
If we're reducing by a few $1 million, how do we get debt service reduction of more than $1 million?
We don't. This is the actual, this is the bonds that we would actually.
Oh,
reduce.
okay, got it.
This is the debt service.
Okay.
This is the debt service associated with the 120. This is the debt service associated with the 1.270. This is the debt service associated.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, so this is the relevant line here. This is this is what you would free up. 12,000, 139,000, 433,000, 433,000.
In debt service.
In debt service.
Yes.
Then you add the row 93 to it. which
Correct.
is the cash, highway use
Which-
revenue.
right.
Cash. And that gives you row 100.
So about 550,000 in the year 25.
No, 433.
Are you saying in total?
Well, that doesn't include the highway user revenue, does it?
But only 21 through 23 is when.
Oh, okay, yes, that's right, we took it back out. Yep,
Yeah,
never mind.
We're back up to 24 of. Okay. I know that's complicated.
So year 23, we're still almost 3 million.
That,
So even though we're talking about millions of dollars of change to the roads program, it's not freeing up that much cash in the bottom line.
Okay.
So in saying that, what's not being done when we're taking that money away?
Oh, we'd be doing a lot less roads. You know, I don't know what roads they would not do, but it'd be a significant
But again,
cutback.
it's important to understand, and you don't know this answer, and you wouldn't, is what is the impact of reducing that money? It's not
20
just,
miles?
we're doing less, but how much less?
20 miles.
Okay, that's history there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Which
looking
is
back, that would be the
good. Yeah,
equivalent
that's
of
good.
20 to 25
Okay,
miles.
so about 20, 25 miles
Right.
impact of roads that would not be serviced in 21, 22, 23.
And in
Right.
the interest of not knowing exactly what the specifics are, they remember now that they do their needs based on pavement conditions, and there's a whole formula.
Right.
So I don't know that you can just sit here and say, okay, well, we're not doing 20 miles of roads. It would be based on the conditions of the pavement.
No, you can't say we're not doing 20 miles of roads, but what we can
So what-
try to find
Can you
out
let me
is
finish?
what the impact is of not
Okay.
having that money. I mean,
Okay, I was going to finish.
okay,
So they've got what they call a pavement condition index. And these changes would get us from 78.3, which is satisfactory, to 70.6, which is fair. So that's what these changes would mean. Keeping in mind, of course, that, I will tell you that in surrounding jurisdictions, our roads, even at this, would still be in better shape than they are. Because I travel.
I know we're looking at places to try to get money from, and I appreciate the work that, went into finding this, but I'm worried about the maintenance on the roads if we do this, and you said it's going to go to 71,
Well, yeah,
whatever,
that's
and
right,
I know,
yeah.
and from when I was a city councilman, we looked into this a bit, because that's when Westminster was doing their road stuff, and from what I was told back then, you never want to go below 73. I don't know what that would bring us here, but once, when the roads start to deteriorate and you don't do what you need to do, then it just costs so much more to keep up with it.
By the
That's
way, I
my
think they've
concern.
gone below 73 in Westminster.
Oh, they did. That's why we changed it.
'Cause,
We-
well,
Right, they did.
I think they're still there, because I was on a road the other day in the city that was unbelievable. So, anyway.
I'm not on council anymore, so I
Yeah.
can't speak to that.
So now that's the adjusted,
And it doesn't really, if you look at that, I don't know, does it help us out? Is the juice worth the squeeze there? Because does it really help us out much?
I
It
think
does help us out. I'm not saying it doesn't, but
I think it does, and
You
Bring
think?
us down.
I will say that in 2 years out, we could potentially be in a totally different financial position to reevaluate this and put money back into it.
yeah, keep in mind, and I agree with you, Dennis, I'm not arguing the point about the road condition, trust me, because you're talking to the gravel road guy. And I've been barking about
So it
that
really
for
doesn't
4.5
affect you, that's
years.
what
So, yeah, right. But what it does, and I was only looking at it temporary here, because I've suggested that we stay the same
Right.
with the ask in '24. So it gives us the ability for 3 years to back off a little bit to save whatever. That's all.
I appreciate everything you're saying, and I do. And the budget's tight. Where do you take the money from? Something's gonna give.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Which I was gonna say, the juice may not be worth the squeezing, but find me another bottle of
Right,
juice.
I know.
I give you credit here. You've looked at a bottom line. We have it reduced. We're getting down to 22 and 23, really. Scare me more than anything here, but at least this could be income tax. The amount we're into now is just a bump there, and we could be in good shape right now or something.
You mean a
but
bump
we
past
don't
this-
know that yet.
A bump past the
Yeah. But we just have to look a little further. This makes it a little more manageable.
It's just an idea, gentlemen. I'm trying to do all I can here, that's all. And I get it, and Ed, I appreciate I get it. You've done this before, and I got it.
Roads, and
So,
road, I'm telling you.
But again, I'm,
When I ran the roads, they became broken down because we took money from them and we had to beg for federal dollars, and it was very painful. And the out years, if nobody has the crystal ball about when the recession's gonna hit, but it ain't gonna be pretty. And this is the easy route, so.
It doesn't seem like it today.
But I really believe that.
Yeah,
And
believe
I cannot believe that in 2 years we're gonna have, unless somebody wins the lottery, that money to put back into something. Roads are tough. And, yeah, the juice and the squeeze, we'll keep
well,
looking.
I would be hopeful that the highway user revenue would, maybe we could keep banging at that. Maybe do it every year down in.
But we're gonna have a change in administration. And as soon as it becomes a change in administration,
Yeah, well,
that's gonna dry up.
Yeah, that's in 2022.
Right.
Even though people look at this as a favorable administration, what we've gone from is $1 million to $2 million and changed from a legislative formula to a grant. So I'm not
wasn't-
sure we've
Yeah,
gotten that much.
I
define
know.
favorable, that's what
Right,
you're saying?
no. Favorable in the sense that it wasn't the opposite. it's not going to be as good in a
Right.
couple of years, would be the expectations.
Well,
I'm just saying, we didn't gain all that much under
No, we
this
didn't.
administration.
I agree with you.
actually, municipalities did way better than we did.
Yeah.
But even they are still far below
Right.
what used to be the norm.
Yeah.
I hate saying this, is there anywhere we can push something out a year that would make up a difference? Any area we could just shove out a year after 22, 23, 24 to?
There's lots of things you can shove out a year, as long as you're willing to accept the
Besides us.
consequences.
Yeah, but that,
I mean, and not that I'm suggesting this, but you could say, we're going to take a year off from road paving and spend nothing.
See, I didn't do that, okay?
Well, again, remember, I started that with, I'm not suggesting.
I know.
And yes, you're right, we can do a lot of things.
Well, I'm going to see where this goes. I'm going to make a motion to do this as a placeholder.
I will second that.
Because if not, it goes away.
we gotta get-
Well, it might go away anyway.
Before I vote on this, so how much money are we taking out of the payment for each year? And actually, how much money are we getting for that? Because we're paying debt service on bonds and all that stuff. So what is you know what I mean? So we're taking out, I have to look over here. So the first year, what are we taking out?
A total of 259.
To get 120,000, is that
No,
right?
He's asking how much did we reduce paving and what's the benefit for having done that? What were the numbers, Commissioner Williams?
See, I could give you the raw numbers.
Well,
I-
yeah,
I'm
I
down
had to-
about 120,000 in '21.
Yeah.
But this is not the formula that you're plugging the rest of the stuff into.
Yes.
But 120,000 in '21, about 1.2 in '22, and about
Right.
3.3 in '23.
And I adjusted this 3.3 down to 2.94 because I have cash that can be used instead of reducing bonds.
Okay.
For the 3-year period.
Let's look at FY '22. To get to 1.2 million, what does that cost us for bonds and whatever other, because it's not all cash that's coming out of there, it's be more debt service.
No, well, the 1.2 is what you gave up.
Right. What does that cost? I mean,
This is,
all right, what are we getting
10%.
at? Well, how am I trying to say this now? If you're taking 1.2 million out, correct? What are we actually getting?
savings.
After you pay the debt service and everything else, what do we get? So the debt, all right, the debt service on 1.2 million is what, 127,000?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, 10%.
so we'll get 90% of the money we take out, but that's that year.
Right. Well, you don't get it that year. I mean, you'd lose the paving today and get the debt service savings later.
Over 20 years.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Clear as mud?
Well, it is hard to just,
Turns of mud is what'll happen.
you know, if you say we're not going to spend 100,000 over here, we're going to spend it over there, that's easy. If you don't use the bonds, you don't have that same
Right.
year-to-year
Right,
connection.
I got you. Okay.
All right, I got a motion and second on the floor. Any other questions before we attempt this?
Not a question, just a statement. One of my priorities was infrastructure and roads, and we've got to maintain them as part of the economic and business development and the growth that we want. We are not going to be appealing if we're going to be showing a failure in our infrastructure.
And a lot of what you're talking about, Ed, are on state highways.
Well, it's everything, but yeah, what I'm talking about are
It's
the
on
three
state highways.
What I'm talking about is all of it, and
I understand that, but your statement says you're looking at business and, you know, employment centers and, or whatever, employment campuses. Tell me one that's not on a state highway.
well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's why I'm
No,
suggesting.
absolutely, they're not
You
on
know
state
what my
highway.
point-
They're not on state highway.
Okay,
Across from Century, it's gonna be an employment campus. I mean, that's not a state highway, and we just approved that 2 months ago.
Okay.
Going to the idea, there are plenty. It is not one thing or another. It's just,
Okay.
again, it's that juice and squeeze
Yeah,
analogy
that's
one
fine.
you said.
I understand what you're saying, but we're into a very tight,
Well, let's see where,
Very tight
and again,
budgets.
remember, these are only placeholders. We can always come back, take it out, or do whatever. Or it could be taken out now based on this vote. And then we're back to the juice. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No?
Okay, right now it's a placeholder.
Are there other spots in this capital budget we can look at? Because after your comments Tuesday, I got to thinking about it as well. I think that's where our potential solution lies in the long term on the capital budget.
So there are things you can look at. There's not a lot to look at, though. The capital budget has never even remotely begun to resemble what it looked like before the recession.
Right. There's not much in the capital.
But you have the whole capital summary here, starting on
Yeah, there
page
is.
53.
But,
Now, keep in mind, 53 is schools. That we cover with the dedicated local income tax. So unless we change our approach,
So we can skip
Changes
over
there.
page 53?
right, unless we're going to change how we do this.
I want you to be as honest and upfront as possible.
so Ed, based on your, the way that you were talking, would it be your opinion right now that we revert back to putting in the priorities and attempt to put them in so that we get a better picture of the minuses on the bottom line?
I think we're gonna have to, because I think what's gonna end up happening is there are certain elephants in the room, and we don't want to talk about the elephants. And that's revenue, that's taxes. It's using money from last year, or 19, to go into 20, to put Band-Aids on, like has been done in the past. Those are some of the very large elephants that I'm not prepared to talk about, because I don't know what the picture's gonna look like by the time we get to where we wanna go. So, for me, instead of looking at those very large elephants in the room, look at the things that we think we have, good decisions to make. I mean, we can work together in making those decisions. I mean, and then, so we all understand, okay, these are the paths we want to go forward with.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to put them in, we're gonna have to, instead of talking about them, we're gonna have to
I
put them
agree.
real. So you,
Yeah.
go ahead, plug them in, let's go.
Do we know what the cost of that disability is going to be with the sheriff that he's requesting?
We don't. We can make estimates, but we would need to know what the intended benefit is before we could put a cost on it.
What do you mean?
I mean, there could be different designs to the plan. Now, the sheriff has said 66 2/3, and if you can't no longer be a policeman, but that's not the only way. The benefit could be different. It can also be set up so it's about you can't work, not you just can't be a policeman. So there would need to be decisions about what benefit you intend to provide to put a number on it.
The type of policy would need to be determined before we can calculate the expense.
Because the difference can be hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
So is that going to be presented to us?
Do we have a study on
I mean, or do we need to get the sheriff come back in, or his department come back in and say, here are the 3 programs to decide from? Or do we just have the one program and say, either that or make something up?
Well, we haven't had any direction from the board, so I don't have an answer for that.
Direction on the board from getting the different programs that
On
may be
doing
available?
anything.
Right.
You see, the sheriff never even actually made a budget request for this item. He's talked to you about it, and he came in and made this proposal to move plan money from here to
Right,
here.
right.
But we never actually had a request. The board has never said, we want to know if we do this, how much it's going to cost. I mean, there's potentially an infinite number of different
Okay. No, and
numbers
that's
we can
fair,
give
yeah.
you.
Okay.
And we have looked at Commissioner Weaver and I were looking at a couple plans leading up to
Right.
this work, but it would depend on which plan
Yeah.
that they would want to take. Now, I can tell you, if they walked in here today, they'd tell you they want exactly what the LEOPS plan gives.
Do we know
So-
what the cost
I don't
is?
think that's where they are. I think they want to look at some way to start progressing in a positive form here, or,
Okay, well, that's not, then you and I are on the wrong page there, too. If they don't get 66 2/3, in my mind, then they're not interested.
it's your mind. No, I think they're looking to progress in that direction. And this
Okay.
is for sheriff and
Detention center.
detention center
Right.
staff. And keep in mind, what we're doing here is going to lead into fire and EMS as we go down
Yeah.
the road a little bit, so.
Well, I don't have those
And we
numbers.
did request, the last board requested information on this. from
Right,
them.
which is why we were working on it. So
But
we
we've
had
been
sat
working
down
on
with
it for
HR.
2 years.
And we got some of those
Yeah,
numbers.
same. Right.
But there's always been some disagreement on the way in which, see, we don't have, our plan doesn't provide for a straight-up 66 2/3.
Right.
Our plan requires Social Security.
Right.
This plugging in, and I'm
Right.
not going to say what they are because I'll get misquoted, and then
Right.
I'll be,
No,
you
all
know,
good.
headlines in the paper tomorrow that Wance is wrong. But there were different levels of being able to get them
Right.
to
Right.
the amount
Right.
that they were looking at. And
Right.
we were pretty close. But Dick, I can't remember what those numbers
Okay,
were.
I can't actually either, but what we need is a plan in place over the next couple years to start implementing this and moving in that direction. And I think we have to request that to
And we
see
need a
what those
cost.
numbers are.
Okay, there are numbers, and you're saying, why aren't there numbers yet? But when you say plug the numbers in, we can't plug numbers in unless we know what benefit you intend to offer. 'Cause-
Understand. So you're saying there are numbers, so if, we just have to have them in front of us, because I don't know what they are either.
I believe the commissioners were all given it, but
Yeah, I actually have it in front of me.
Okay.
can we,
I believe is what I have.
Can we do this
Okay.
backwards and plug in X amount of dollars? What would that buy us?
Well, if he's got it, I think he's
Okay.
close. If those numbers are probably close.
and as far as progressing towards something, if we're talking about implementing something in this next 6 years, there's not going to be any big advantage to you of doing it partially in 20, partially in 21, 22. I mean, it's still, in 25, it's going to have the same impact.
As it does.
Either way.
To be frank, I don't want to shortcut this, but maybe I do. We just gave them a 9% pay increase last year. Why is this so loud? 9% pay increase last year.
Because people couldn't hear you.
Right. So, I mean, why that was on my priority list, I have to say it was fourth. There's other things I'd like to see first before we get into this. And if we had the money, I'm all for it. But we don't have the money this year. We do not. They got a 9% pay increase last year, while everyone else around the county got 3%.
Well, I'd still like to examine if there would be a way, and
Well, if
if there would be a way that we could get closer to what they're asking for, keeping in mind that the sheriff in good faith came in and said, look, I don't need the amount of SROs that were
Right.
in there. Because the basis behind that was, to use some of that to be able to get us closer to
Well,
that.
I understand that was his idea, but the fact is, just because we overshot on how much money we gave to our SROs because we wanted to fully protect the students in Carroll County, and being a sheriff, he knows better than we do what it requires, and he came up with a plan that was a superior plan, and I believe him on that, he knows what he's talking about. We didn't, but just because we committed more money to it that wasn't needed, doesn't mean that money goes to something else he wants. That money comes back to us, and that's even with that money coming back, we're still where we are.
When we did this last year, we had no idea what the state requirements would
Yeah,
be on
I
this.
agree.
We had just plugged that in, and all of a sudden, now we have adequate coverage, and we can do that with fewer people. So that money was returned to us, and
Okay,
that
remember,
money, I
there's no
think.
money returned.
We didn't,
Right.
I'm sorry, Ted, you're right.
There's no money.
Right terminology.
The money was not spent, or not pulled at this point, to be spent for SROs. And where we are in this, we put this back into the mix already. That would be enough to, I guess, get us in a good direction, I would think.
Okay, what would be enough?
The money that was not allocated out at the present time for SROs to put into that.
No, but you keep going back to that, but there is no money to move. Us not spending planned money in the future when you have a negative bottom line, it doesn't go to anything.
Okay.
It can't go to anything.
Which is why I'm
Trying to get to a zero balance.
Which is why I'm
before we
challenged
move
with
forward.
putting stuff in,
Yeah.
Ed,
I know.
with all due
No,
respect. But
trust,
keep,
I understand what you're saying.
okay.
Absolutely, and I don't disagree with what you're sharing. Again, what I'm looking at is just getting it on the table, what are some of the priorities, just so we can, when we're prepared to plug them in, we'll
Well,
plug them in. I mean,
but
maybe
before,
maybe it's just trying to keep the momentum going on the conversation.
and that's,
and-
okay. Well, but before we do that, though, we had,
Well,
we're not, we're closer.
Yeah, and my comments are not about what path you choose to take. I'm just saying, I don't want an idea hanging out there that there's a pot of money that we can devote to something.
No pot.
No.
Take it out of this desk drawer and put it over there in
Yeah,
that one.
no, it wasn't, you're right, absolutely.
Okay, so
We're still back to where.
back to where we
We
are.
were.
Back to regularly.
So,
Well,
I mean,
back to
I'm looking at
regular
the top of page 54. I need an education on the conservation and open space expenses. Is it possible in the 22 and the out years if we can solve that deficit in those numbers? We do very well with the watershed assessment and improvement. I mean, is it to a point where we could reduce the funding in the future on that? Or is that mandated at those numbers? I do not know. Educate me.
Okay. Ag land preservation, we talked some about the other day.
Right.
It's a little bit less in the first couple of years, but you can take up to $3 million a year out of that. Environmental compliance, in theory, it could go away. We keep it there because we don't know in any one year where MD might say, you've got to do something about this. But we don't have to have that money there. Stormwater facility renovations, I would find it hard to say it'd be a good idea, but we could do something less there. The watershed assessment and improvement, it's in your hands. You could say spend less money there, but we have to do it knowing that this is all tied in to us not having implemented a new tax, our agreement with the state on how we were going to move ahead. We actually have a special fund set aside where we spend this money and the revenue goes in, and we still have the permit that we have.
So,
If we do less, we will end up out of compliance. And then we'll be in the same position as a lot of other counties where we're talking to the state about consent agreements. So it's hard to see, it might buy you a couple of years, but it's not going to improve our situation.
Well, that's why I want to know. So basically, years 22 and out, we can't even touch the watershed assessment funds.
but
You can,
Well, we can,
Well, we could.
yeah, we could do
But-
anything.
But,
But environmental compliance, that 75,000, we could zero that out, understand the risk associated with it.
Yes.
And if necessary, fine that 75,000 at any, I won't say any given time, but,
somewhere else
yeah,
if we
so
need to.
my recommendation is we zero that out. And it's a good call, putting attention to this, so.
Yeah, that would be the only,
Yeah,
the
out of house.
only place that I would even attempt to
right.
look at.
Because this does throw us out of compliance if we go too far in any one of
Right.
these, and
But
we have an
that
agreement.
environmental compliance, it's just been a marker out there just in case. And
Yeah, this one,
and this is another one, 75 doesn't buy you 75, because half of it we have in bonds.
So
it gets
is
you
that a motion?
37,500 plus a couple dollars in debt service.
yeah, that would be a motion to put that.
I'll
in.
second that motion.
Wow. Such, he's such an excitement killer.
Commissioner Frazier, how he has it.
You already have it.
Man,
I got a paper.
Yo.
I have highlighted sections of mine.
any further discussion?
All right, so I've got a motion and a second to get rid of 160,000 in 20 and 75,000 in the out years, knowing that that's not anywhere near what the number is.
Correct. That's a correct statement.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that was unanimous.
don't even know.
Scorekeepers, that was unanimous.
Somebody's heard it.
Did you get that, Deb?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would not touch any of that land, that ag or watershed at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't even,
That's,
I'd quickly flip the
yeah,
page.
let's get to another page.
Well, we got something out of that column.
We did. I think it's as a result of the discussions that we had that they put it in there, that they put it together.
Deb,
Okay?
Do we really need bridges?
None of that work went for naught. None of our work.
50,
Obviously, there's not that much money in there.
No, there's not.
50.
But that,
And this was constructed both.
No, not kidding.
Approximately 50 would be much higher in '21
All right,
because of
what
the
do you got,
spillover.
what page you guys on now?
It does fluctuate.
Archie,
You're okay,
comments
it's
page
covered, the
3.
3750 is well covered. Yes, environmental, yes.
So, in the Parks and Rec, look at page 57, the sports complex, lighting,
You know, when you're in Rec and Parks,
Yeah.
remember, this is largely funded with program open space.
Yeah.
Which isn't available for you to move anywhere else. There is some cash in the mix.
where would I look?
Tot lot replacements is cash.
57 in this one. But I don't know what,
No, I'm not,
The only cash that's there is restoration, town fund.
Park restoration is what you're talking about?
you got it, Jay?
where's,
So you're saying tot lots,
Okay, no, tot lots wasn't. That was my,
park restoration, you said is?
park restoration is, now, keep in mind what that is. This is basically taking care of the infrastructure that you already have. So this becomes a question much like the road paving question.
Yeah,
And I have to say, my recollection is, you can correct me, Ted, hopefully you won't. We didn't have money in that for years, and we added money to that because the parks got, the condition of the parks really went downhill.
That's correct.
So that's why we put this amount of money in there, and it's really not adequate for what needs to get done. I'd be really hesitant taking any of that money.
And you have the town fund, that's where we're paying half of what the towns have to match for their program open space money. And you've got,
But if we took that, would they lose open space money?
no, they would just have to come, they would
They'd have to come up
their
with the
own-
entire amount.
With the match.
They would love us for that.
And then the self-help projects. This is where, you know, rec councils and communities are
Right.
putting in labor, money, materials, and we're providing some money toward it.
the Union Mills, the 435,000 in 2024. What, do we know what that jump is from that 160 some odd to 435?
Well, it's just the timing of doing the flume shaft and
Is that
the
what it
water
is?
wheel.
Yeah, it all,
Okay.
yeah. All the work gets done in that time period.
And that's not the whole budget, you know, if you go all the way out, it's 890,000 is the total cost of this project.
Right.
Part of
Got
it has
it.
already been budgeted.
Right.
And that's why I said somewhere along the way, I talked about this project, you know, it's one of those things, you know, we have an unusual, possibly unique asset in this mill.
Right.
But there's a cost to having it.
I mean, just like that farm museum, I don't want to touch it, I want to continue it, and it's got more value being part of our community, just like Union Mills.
That's what, and you know, it's stuff like this that, you know, sometimes people are talking about, well, you just need to choose not to do some things.
Yeah, I know.
Once you get down to the actual choices, it's often much more difficult than it
Right.
feels.
And you're talking of thousands of kids and young
Oh,
people
I agree,
affected.
I
mean,
100% agree.
Right.
I don't want, I want to continue those to prosper.
I mean, we're tight, but we gotta be careful that we don't
That's right.
hurt the wrong people in this. I mean,
You know, in that one session where I was talking about how when the next recession comes, we won't have some of the tools available to us that
Right.
we did in the last one. What we're doing right now is one of the things I was talking about. Back in fiscal year 10, going through the capital budget was a very different exercise than what we're doing today. There were more things to look at and say, no, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, we're going to do less of that. The choices are slim now.
we're eating ourselves. Is it possible to adjust the park restoration funds from the year 22 out by some amount to help bring those numbers down there?
You have absolute control of what this would look like. Just acknowledging that it means there are repairs that won't get done.
Yeah, but they're in the out years. We can potentially come back and look at it again.
Yeah, well,
Down the road.
Yeah, well, we don't have the money. What's the alternative? Raise the taxes?
yeah.
As a businessman, I'm gonna be quite frank about it. This comes down to revenue, the lack of revenue coming in. And as a Republican that's conservative, it's hard to talk about the fact that we do need more revenue. And I've seen some projections up there of a potential 1 cent rate increase on property tax. It was up there earlier. I'm not openly suggesting it, but somehow or another, we're gonna have to come up with some more money, or we're just gonna keep chopping this to pieces.
Well, you're right. The fact is, if we can't come up with additional cuts, and right now, it looks like we're just treading water because the things you're cutting now are either so little or no one wants to do it, and I don't blame anybody for that. The only other alternative is to raise revenue.
How
And,
much revenue gets
if-
raised?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
How much revenue gets raised for a 1 cent property tax
It's
rate?
like $2.1 million, just off the top of my head. Is that close?
That's right.
The 59th board cut the property tax rate by how much?
3 cents.
3 cents. So if we had a 1 cent raise, it'd give us that amount back.
Yeah.
But it takes 3 years for that to kick in, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
No,
Get the
you
money
would
immediately.
feel the whole impact.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, if we're talking about increased revenues, to be very frank with you, I wouldn't go with a 1 cent increase. I'd restore the taxes to what they were before the 59th board took them away, which would be 3 cents. That's what I would do. If you look in the paper today, you look at, I believe it was the city of Westminster and Tonytown, I could be wrong, I think both of them were in the paper today about their budgets and how they were able to get through their budgets without raising taxes at all, which is fantastic. But you know what didn't happen to them in the past 10 years? They didn't reduce their taxes. When they had extra, when they had money coming in, they kept it, they used it, and they made their towns a little nicer, a little better with that money. The 59th board reduced taxes here by 3 cents on property tax and something on income tax as well. If we had not done that, we wouldn't be in this position today. If you're talking about, like Commissioner Rothstein did earlier, decisions that were made in the past that affect us now, that's a major decision that was made, and now this is where we are. We're cannibalizing the services that we have in Carroll County to try to make this work. And I know it's Republican County, and I put this out once before, and everybody jumped all over me. It was a lot of fun. But I don't see another solution. I don't. I've been sitting back waiting for these, 2 days to see if someone came up, and we've looked everywhere.
I think, no, I don't think we've looked everywhere. I think
Well,
we gotta
keep-
continue.
I keep
we gotta
looking. I'm
continue to
okay
look,
with
but I'll
that.
tell you, I understand the 59th board, but then there was the 60th board, and decisions still were not made to raise taxes.
Okay, and I
This is the
proposed that in
beginning
the
of
60th board.
This is the beginning of the 61st board. Let's continue to look. I personally do not have an appetite to raise taxes. The budgets in the towns, we're talking $6 million, $4 million, $8 million compared to what we're looking at here. The
Oh, I
difference is
understand
values.
that,
So
but
it's like apples and cherries,
No.
and let's continue to look
Mangoes
through
and-
this now. Here's a mango.
And while I'm not disagreeing with any of that conversation, one way or the other, I will tell you that it's not as simple as saying if they wouldn't have reduced the taxes, we'd have a lot of money now.
I
Because I
know.
suspect that between then and now,
We'd have spent.
it
It
would have been
spent.
spent.
You're right, it might have been. But I'm looking at that $6.3 million right now
So-
saying, man, would we be okay right now if we had the extra money?
I would-
But
I
who
would-
knows what would have happened?
Yeah, I
You're
would
right.
entertain that it probably wouldn't be here. Because there would have been other projects that would have risen to the top.
Might have.
It would have been spent, and we'd still be sitting here going, okay, where are we going next?
And
So I don't think
that
it's as
could be
easy as
true.
just the magic, all right, let's restore.
I agree.
I,
You live
and-
within your means.
yeah, you're not gonna,
Okay.
you know where I am on this, and you're
I'm-
not gonna get me at all with any of that.
I-
Five more
As
questions?
far as I'm concerned, I just kicked that elephant, and he ran out the door.
Well, we need to keep picking away at this
I
thing.
got
Keep
another
picking
question. The enterprise funds, is there anything we can do to moving those enterprise funds that would affect our budget? Or is that also one of those, let's just say elephant in the room that just needs to be out of the room right now?
If you mean, is there anything you can do in the enterprise funds to help this bottom line?
That, the answer is no, right? But is there anything we can do with the enterprise funds, moving them out of being enterprise funds, that will be able to affect this budget? Or are they, by statute, those enterprise funds that are just,
No, I mean, you have a choice. There are pretty strong reasons for most of them,
to stay as enterprise funds?
yes. And of course, solid waste is actually working, whether it's an enterprise fund or not,
Right.
is working against you.
Right.
Not sure if I'm aware of any situation where a jurisdiction had water and sewer as a general fund operation.
Right.
But even there, you just had a very difficult question, a conversation about the rates
Right.
there. So
Right.
again, I don't see that helping you. So whether they're an enterprise fund or not an enterprise fund, I don't see any help for you. And just want to go back to something Commissioner Boucher said for a second. You talked about, well, that's in the out years, maybe things will get better. I would really encourage you, with anything that's built into the plan, operating or the capital, if you're going to reduce it, you ought to be reducing it with the idea, that's where we intend to end up.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
The library technology. The libraries are going through renovations, and they got this, I thought, a very large grant through the renovations.
You're talking about the
That's for-
makerspace? in
Yeah, that's for a
the
specific
basement?
project.
Yeah, that's, right. But I'm saying, there's $100,000 a year set aside for library technology.
And that's not enough.
That's not related to that project. This is
Right.
just the ongoing keeping them
That,
current.
that was put in, instead of 400,000
Right.
at one lump sum, we
Right.
spread, we just give you so much a year.
Right.
for Tech services, upgrade.
And that's not enough, you're saying?
No, I mean,
No.
they're treading water on technology. I mean, they're doing the best they can, but
The makerspace
I'm
part
amazed
was
by it.
1.2
They're
mil, what did we put up for that?
600,000.
600,000. Is that money we just put in, or is that holding out there?
No, that's already budgeted.
And I think they're gonna meet their debt on that.
Yeah, they got a contract, somebody out of Ohio or someplace that's gonna be doing
They've been
renovations.
working on, I think,
Yeah.
talking
I think
to
they're
them,
gonna
I
be
think
fine.
they're gonna be able to meet their obligations. Sure hope so.
That's good. That's good.
I'm optimistic.
Does anyone know anything about these two pavilion replacements? One at Piney Run and one at Bear Branch? Year 24.
Well, I can't say I know a lot about them specifically off the top of my head, but once they make it here, this is just part of an ongoing evaluation of what is the condition of our facilities and when do we expect to replace it. But then keep in mind, though, again, this is primarily program open space money. So even if you said, don't do that project, it wouldn't help you with anything
Okay.
else. This is legislatively restricted funding.
The funding that we have going to the high school, North Carroll High School, when do we believe we're gonna make a decision on North Carroll High School?
I hope within the next month, we're gonna get some feedback. I know we have, hopefully that's coming in the very near future.
Well, this has to do with the demolition and roof replacement, or roof, so it's given, we're either gonna demolish it or we're gonna sustain it.
We don't want to replace the roof and demolish it.
I mean,
It depends what order you do it in.
This is the government, so.
That is poor timing on this, a little bit, but it's the timing we have. It's just backwards. It should have been, hopefully, a month or two prior to that, but I was kind of stonewalled in some of this, so it is what it is here. We'll have to,
But it's $2.9 million budgeted to either replace the roof or bring down the building.
Now, if the third alternative emerges, that somebody takes this building from us.
Right.
Then that would free this up, and this is all cash, because we
Right.
can't bond raising
Right.
a building.
Right.
So this one could help you, if that happens.
So,
it's in the process now to come forward to us when we just, hopefully they get a study back a little bit on what it would actually cost. We know that out, we know if we're going to move forward.
Yeah, but it won't come while we're doing our budget.
well, in May. That's
I
the
know it's
thing.
bad
It could be in
timing,
the next
but-
week or two. What if that money wasn't in there? What would it do to the building?
Nothing, but if we get to the point where we have to do one of those, then we have no money available for it.
And we'd have to find it because, well, could we bond that money in the out years if we had the room?
If it's a roof.
Right.
But if it's raising the building, no.
Well, no, I mean, right, I understand
You
that.
can't bond nothing.
Yeah. Well, right, I understand, that was my question.
But
Whether
if
we could
it's-
bond that
Right,
and
but
take
if,
this out of there.
correct, because if it's sold, then we don't have to worry about the demolition, because it's sold and it's theirs.
Yeah,
If
freeze
it's
it.
not sold, and we have to fix the roof, we can bond it to fix the roof in the out years.
Yes.
So my recommendation is that we take that $2.9 million out, knowing that if it's sold, we won't have to deal with it, and if it needs to be,
Wait a minute, change your terminology, hoping that it's sold.
well, hope is not a course of action.
Well, it is in this case.
So, but the point is, but the point is, it's regardless. If it's sold and the building is gone, it'll be demolished. If the roof has to be replaced, it can get bonded. The challenge is we are committing ourselves to holding on to the building regardless by taking this out right now. But my recommendation is that we take that 2.9 million out.
What does it look like if we do that?
You'll have another $2 million.
Right? It's cash.
What year
It's
does that
free.
kick in?
2.9 million.
Now.
21.
Got it right now.
Well,
Now.
21, 800.
You making a motion?
No,
Well,
No.
wait a minute.
Hold off.
Just see what it looks like first.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. We have it in multiple years?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
That's because it's having.
yep.
Wow.
That's what I like about it.
Okay, we were, with this, we'd have been
We've been putting cash. into-
saving toward it.
Right.
Do you have any money saved already?
2, 3, 4, 32.
No.
Why does that come out to 3.2 and this says 2.9?
And this is now putting the thumb screws to Jack. This is now putting the thumb screws onto Jack to getting it done.
You gotta put faith in
I got faith in him, all right.
it. Good for positive faith.
How comes the total project cost is 2.9, Deb, but then 800 times 4 is 3.2?
The last one's
Last one's
5.
500.
Oh, okay. Got it, sorry.
Just a general thought as you're working your way through these things. You know, when we're building your plan, we're trying to set you up to not run into trouble. Now, there's lots of places where you could say, well, that might not happen, and that can be true on any one.
Correct.
But when you start depending on a lot of that might not happen, that's when you're
It
almost become
happens.
likely to have
No,
trouble.
which I appreciate, but this is a very specific action, that we're working through right now.
Yeah, but this is not the only place where we've said, well, that might not happen, or maybe
Right,
it'll get
right,
better.
right.
And more than any one, it's the accumulation of those
It is.
decisions that concerns me.
That's fair.
And that's from a starting point where I've already told you, probably more times than you want to hear, our flexibility is significantly reduced from where it once was.
Right.
I mean, focus is to make the most value out of that area. And We have economic development that's focusing their attention on it right now.
It's being done.
So,
You want a placeholder of that, Ed?
Actually, you know what?
we do.
We'll know before we pass the final budget.
Yeah, but for that one piece. of it,
One
like,
piece.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We'll
make a
have an
motion that
idea
we
where
put
we're
this as a
heading before we
placeholder.
get there.
Well, that won't help you work your way through this now, though.
No, but it at least gives us, before we get to the final budget, where, makes your life rough. But, you know, deciding how this all comes together.
If we put this in here, placeholder,
Right.
whatever is supposed to happen before the final budget happens and it doesn't come about, then we got to go back and find another $2.5 million, or two, whatever it is, 2.4, right?
Not necessarily,
No, we wouldn't.
no.
No, we wouldn't have to.
Because again, it's not dependent
Change
just
your
on this
plans.
one piece. It's not dependent on just this one deal, whether it's coming through or not. The point is that we're gonna be continuing to work with economic development,
To do something with the
To do
building.
something with the
regardless.
This just buys us a
and
little
this
time.
becomes a priority.
I will second your
So let's do
motion.
that now.
All right, got a motion and second to make this a placeholder, and the placeholders keep hitting. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous?
Thank you, Commissioner Alstein.
Okay. Then on this, just one other piece to this, want to make sure that you don't forget, I've mentioned this before,
Excuse me, but
but if North Carroll remains in our hands, we don't have the money budgeted in the plan for
Right.
annual costs.
It could sit there and fall apart technically, right?
save the money in demolition.
Well, not if we continue using it.
I mean, if we didn't have any use for the building itself, say we relocated the law enforcement training facility to another location, that building could literally just sit there and fall apart.
It's being used for rec purposes too, although I would argue, if we say we're not using the building, then we ought to be taking it down, not letting
Right.
it fall apart.
Right.
You can't leave a building stand there.
Correct.
Doing nothing.
That's why I was wondering.
Give
That's
it to
called the
Hampstead.
Warfield.
Give it to Hampstead.
Yeah.
All right, we've got,
We use another million.
we got positions in place for, we got reserved positions in place from 22 out, right?
No, actually, you took out 4
Yeah.
years of
We
it.
did.
We took out what? 4 years, did we already?
did
do
what?
that?
We took out the
22
out
through
years.
25.
Right.
Oh, we did?
They're already gone?
Yeah, you did that the other
Yeah, we
day.
can't.
22 to 25.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I remember that.
What'd you do that for? What's the matter with you?
Opposed to you doing it now.
All right, take 10 minutes to clear your heads, please, okay? Back at 2:35.
Thank you.
Okay. And we now return to regularly scheduled programming. So,
Find my notes.
Bring it up for discussion.
Not yet, I got something else first.
so right now,
Go ahead. I was going to say, actually, I got a call from, talking to Dr. Ball earlier today, and he said that the Carroll Community College would be willing to try to help out with some of this, with some one-time money. What they have is they have some additional money that they have in their adult education funding of, he estimates right now about $300,000. If they would give us that $300,000 and we put it into FY '22, that would almost balance out that year.
Is that in here?
No,
Which group is this?
Carroll Community College. They were watching our budget deliberations the other day, realized how tough everything was. And they said in their adult education fund,
that's the,
they could possibly come up with, now, he hasn't worked out all the details, and somebody will call you if you're interested in doing this. But they could possibly come up with $300,000 one-time money to put into this. And it's not from tuition or fees or something like that. This is from the adult education that we do fund. But they also asked, don't cut that because of the matching funds and everything else that goes along with it.
yeah, I found it, yeah. So we put $80,000 towards that program.
Yeah, but they need that money to come in because of the matching funds.
No,
Right.
you put about $250,000 towards
Right,
it.
don't- yeah.
80,000 is the amount over what we're required to match to get the grant.
Right, I'm
What
sorry.
their ask is that
Right,
keep putting the money in that we're putting in, but they have this additional money which they will, like, give us a check for. But don't take out what we're giving them.
It was, as one, be clear, we are giving them 80,000 above the required amount of money for them to get the match.
Yes.
correct.
So take out that, okay, hey, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I don't think that's what Commissioner Frazier was
I'm
saying.
not saying take out the 80,000.
What are you saying, take out?
I'm not saying take out anything. I'm saying that they have additional money that they're willing to give us.
They're sitting on a balance.
Right. It's in that particular program.
So it's just a one-time?
Yes.
Well, then why not just do it?
Why not just take the 80,000 out?
I don't know how that works about them getting matching funds. That's my
If-
thing.
If they're giving us the possibility, why couldn't we reduce the $80,000 in 2021 and in 22?
Okay. I would say have Ted talk to them about it.
Well,
how it
I
can be
mean,
done.
okay.
I don't want to mess them up because they
Yeah.
made an offer that would help out the county.
Yeah, I understand that, but it sounds to me like that would be the way to roll
However
in
you
lieu
work it
of
out.
someone handing us a check.
I'm sure somebody from the college is falling off their chair right now, but they could give Ted a call and see if we can work this out. So don't put it in for anything right now.
There they are.
Don't put it in for anything right now, but
Okay, well, my point is, if you did that, would it still reflect in the same way, Deb? If you took it?
If we did it, that's what your balance would be in 22.
if you did in 22, just put that money in that 1 year.
Yeah, like they
Right.
gave us a
Yep.
check up here. It would be 300,000 of revenue to us.
What you
Not
would
as
have-
reductions.
You would have unbudgeted revenue, all the fund balance, you would assign it to that year.
Right. Is my phone ringing? No.
The whole thing come crashing down.
Did you find some money, Greg? Is that why you're in here?
Be like Jerry Lewis back there.
You trying to pull away Wance's microphone? I don't blame you, but you want to put that in as a placeholder to Ted talks to the, I guess it's Wance at the college you're talking to, isn't it?
No,
Oh, no, Al.
it'll
that's
be
right.
Alan, yeah.
That's always giving Wance too much power.
So let me, well, let- Okay. I don't want to take that and try to do something else with it, I guess. I was going to try to see if we could, what it would do if we took it away for those 3 years, but it doesn't do much, I guess, does it? If you take it away, 80,000 in 20, 21, and 22. I mean, I don't know what the point of that would be, I guess. Because it doesn't help us with 20.
No. And
Is that showing our current fund balance at 3 million right now?
Yeah. Well, that's FY
With
'20
that-
balance.
that's if
20.
you use 80,000 like that. But don't.
So if you parse it across all the way, we'd be, not saying I want to do that, I'm just saying. But,
Who said that?
yeah, and Commissioner Frazier, being a bug in my ear. At least it's
Okay.
getting us closer,
I was just curious.
where it's not as,
You can put it back if you want, that's fine.
where it's not as painful. That 2.9 million, which would still give us a fund balance of almost $1 million
For this year.
for this year.
Okay, and just so we don't get confused in
Yeah.
terminology, we really ought to be just talking about, what you have left on the bottom line, that your
Right.
fund balance is recurring money that's sitting
Okay,
outside
yeah.
the budget.
And semantics matter, so make sure I'm using the right words as I'm going through this. But if we were to do that, looking at that adjusted operation plan balance across the board through 2025, it would still give us
It goes nuts.
a current operational plan balance of $1 million in 2020, correct?
Yes, assuming that that revenue shows up.
And I know you don't assume, assuming that revenue shows up.
Well, we're making that assumption right now.
Right. But that's still a pretty nice chunk, $1 million as operational plan balance starting off compared to where we were. Not saying we shouldn't continue this. This isn't like a stopping point, hey, we got to there, but it'll get us into a positive number moving forward. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been arguing against continuing this practice, so that's my starting
So,
point. But it's a-
yeah, I apologize cutting you off, but real quick, how much was it done last year? Was it $1 million, was it 2 million, was it 5 million, what?
How much from somewhere else
Yeah,
came into
yeah.
19? I don't remember, Deb probably has it here.
I mean, because I'm curious, was it as big as this, or was it much bigger? Because I don't like that practice either, but,
It's been millions of dollars in some years.
Yes.
That's 19, 11.7, 3, the
Okay,
normal.
not counting the 1% that we typically would put in.
right.
Yeah, it was about $8 million in 19.
Okay, so using $8 million in 19, and I'm looking at using $2 million now. So it's still the same type of practice, but it's dramatically less.
Yeah, well, you can do it, but I don't think we should take too much from that comparison. It's, I would look at it the other way, is if we're going to do it, we probably went too far in 19.
Now he tells us.
You could also
Well,
increase
yeah.
rates last year.
He did tell us.
He did tell us. I'm only kidding.
So, okay, but I mean, that is,
But it is in your hands
That is
to take that path
palatable.
if
Right.
you want to. And just, a point that I make from time to time, just as we go through this conversation, I think it's important to remind ourselves, the only reason we're having this conversation is because we are going to the effort of looking at 6 years rather than
Correct.
last year. Right now, if all we were doing is balancing next year's budget, you guys would say, oh geez, we can build those positions in, we can do the sheriff's disability, we can do the college increase, and we're good. Except in fiscal year '21, we wouldn't be good.
right. No, absolutely, and I definitely applaud that you're doing this. But it's a lot more palatable than
Oh, yeah.
raising taxes or any other taking money from people.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is how everybody, that is how everybody else does it.
The one here.
Flying from the seat of their pants,
Well,
year to year.
And year to year.
Well, we have a great system here for looking at this over 6 years.
Yeah.
And Ted and the group up front keeps out of major trouble in the county. And the county is really good financially. I mean, we're solid. That's not the issue. It's just, how do we get this budget balance for 6 years? Not 1, 6.
We budgeted $8.5 million for county technology. Was that presented years ago, or was that, that's a lot of money.
Where
I'm on
are you
page
looking? Ed?
58,
The operating budget.
page 58, fifth line down,
Page 50,
58,
60.
58. 8-point-something million,
Oh, you're in the cap?
right there.
Oh, all the way across, if you add all those years together.
8.5 million.
1 year at a time.
No, that's what Ted told me to do. He said, look all the way to the right.
Okay.
And I said,
Okay, well, yes, on discrete projects, true, yeah. This is a little bit different, and it's funding that's going in every year. So, adding up to 6 years.
I'm doing
is
what
a
you
good-
told me to
yeah,
do.
yeah. Now, if it was the state's attorney's headquarters, then yes, that would work. You would know what it was.
County technology,
But when you have ongoing funding,
okay.
it's not as useful.
I got it, but, okay, so $1.3 million a year is what we are allocating for the next 5 years for county technology. Right? I'm reading that right.
Yes.
Okay. Was that put in the last year or so, or has that been a trend over many years, has been $1.3 million?
Well, this has been funded for many years. It has grown some over time. You could spend less here, but you would feel an impact of doing it. I don't think anybody would argue that we feel like this is a comfortable budget. We're getting by with the things we need to do. And remember, we're talking about IT. We're talking about your entire operation, talking about the sheriff, state's attorney,
Yeah.
the courts.
Right.
There's a lot we're doing. And what we generally find is times will come up during the year where the commissioners will be questioning, why hasn't something happened, or why isn't something happening, more than we're saying, gee, everything's good, let's talk about something else. It's a constant struggle.
I understand, but I'm looking at IT and technology upgrades like this as infrastructure, just like I'm looking at the roads as
Yes.
infrastructure.
And much of it is that.
If we're looking at putting in placeholders for our roads in a decrease, would it be feasible to look at cut in this?
I think it would be harder to do it here than it would be with roads. If parts of our IT system fail, we can be brought to a halt.
Is this include all the licensings and fees and as we move in technology that we're paying each year, we're allocating for?
That's all operating.
That's an operating.
That's part of their operating budget. We're dependent on our computers. We're dependent on our email. Our phone system goes over the internet. We have tremendous amounts of information that are stored in various places. It'd be hard to tell you with any sense of comfort that we could reduce this funding in any noticeable way and not be concerned about it.
Okay.
23 is still 901, right?
Right.
What did we contribute that to the other day when somebody asked the question, why is 23 such a problem?
Leap year.
The revenue change because of the reassessment we got in South Carroll this year and the impact on the next time they come around. So
You lowered that.
we lowered it, right, and that's when it hits you.
Okay. The next group to be assessed.
Northeast.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
That'd be you, Edith. Some of me, but a lot of you.
And, you know, and on this point, this is one of those spots where it could turn out things will be better than
Right.
we've built in here. We have 8.25, we have assumed an 8.25 reassessment for the next South Carroll. 8.5, sorry. Okay, I can't tell you it won't be 9, I can't tell you it won't be 12, but right now, with the information we've seen, I don't have any argument to tell you you ought to be building your spending based on that assumption.
What do you have built in for Northeast?
6.25. And that's actually true of every other year other than the South Carroll, the next South Carroll.
Okay.
I've asked this, I think last time we had a little bit of a discussion about fleet management. The operational budget for fleet management is $8 million a year. Am I not reading that correctly?
That includes all of our replacement vehicles.
Right.
And new purchases when we have them.
Well, there's another area where it says, you know, for capital purchases, it's like 200 some odd thousand every other year. So
What are you looking at?
the fleet management on page 22 is like $8 million, but then on,
It's the
Fleet lift replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the lifts.
Oh.
Vehicle lifts.
it's not a big list.
In the capital.
It was like 2 years. It was like 200 some odd thousand. What else?
Page 58,
Is that what it is?
I believe so. About halfway
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, that's to replace the.
Fleet lift replacement.
Yeah, I think we have nine lifts there. There's pretty much always something in
So
the
those fleet
program.
lifts are actual lifts, not
Yes.
part of the fleet
Right,
vehicles?
that's their workspace.
So, but going back to that operating budget of $8 million, that goes everything from our sedans to our plows and everything in between.
Yep. And fuel, and, you know, the cost of parts, the people who are doing the work.
I'm willing to drive in his A6 as opposed to using a sedan. So just let you know. I got my Infiniti, but I'd rather be in his A6 and,
I'm pretty sure we have no Audis in our fleet.
Right, so therefore, I got his A6, and I don't need a fleet vehicle to get me to Annapolis. I don't know how many stands we have, or if things have been, how often they've been audited or looked at as overuse or non-use. I mean,
I do know that I think that there's really never enough fleet vehicles, I believe.
We have a small pool of vehicles for that kind of use. And yes, what we're seeing is the demand is greater than the supply. We actually reduced the size of that half a dozen years ago, maybe.
Okay. Well, that's good to know,
Yeah.
that it was looked at and adjusted. So,
Yeah, you know, it's, as we've been working our way through this last decade, there's not a lot that hasn't been looked at. You know, decisions got made in different ways, but you'd be hard pressed to find something and say, gee, did anybody ever think about this?
Right.
The answer's almost always going to be yes.
Well, it's just like you said about personnel. Cuts were made, we're at a point where you just can't make the cuts anymore. It's the same thing with the fleets. And as long as it was looked at and it was drawn down, I got it. some of the capital projects that you've been working on over the last 4 years that we've, I'm getting to become more aware of, can any of them be pushed out further than where we're at? Whether it's the sheriff's, and I'm not saying the sheriff's, Eldersburg district, I know that's out there, but there's other things,
There's not very much new. You have the Market Street extension, you've got the state's attorney's headquarter building.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot more. That's it.
That's it? No, there's gotta be
Yeah.
more. What?
I mean, there's
No,
improvement.
This capital budget is
Yeah.
almost entirely about taking care of what we have.
Right.
Very little new initiatives.
There are improvements to some,
Yeah. Well, I thought there's buildings that we're purchasing, aren't there? Right out here, aren't there some buildings that are going from commercial to government where?
We have an existing budget for when those opportunities come up. There's no new money budgeted in here for that.
We have an existing budget. for
An
whatever-
existing appropriation. We budgeted in the past. Because it's the nature of trying to acquire those properties is you have to be able to act when the
they're-
chance is
right,
there.
Right, no, I understand. But in the same breath, some of these other monies we're taking away, we're sitting on that money, not touching it. Or is that money not there?
There's really not money there. We have that bonded. We plan for a little bit of the debt service. The entire appropriation, we don't plan for the debt service on all of it because we don't really expect all of it to get used at any one time. If an opportunity arises and, we know how much we might spend, then we'll react to
Right.
that and build it into the plan.
Do you know how much money we have sitting there?
yeah, I see what you're,
So-
yeah, they can always, yeah, ask
I
about
think we have 100,000 a year budgeted as bonds being sold, so it's only like 10,000 a year.
Okay, which is a different answer. Yeah, to answer your question, there is some millions of dollars, but we're only planning on $100,000 a year of debt service. So we could back off of something there, but the only thing you would free up would be $100,000 a year on your bottom line. And then that would mean we have not planned for anything to have debt service if there was actually a purchase. So if we decide to purchase something, we would then be working out of a hole to say, where's this money going to come from?
I think it's 100,000.
We're getting- yeah.
How many,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Debbie said we only have $100,000 worth of bond sales plans. That's only $8,000 or $9,000.
10,000, but yeah,
Greenwood Properties.
okay.
And
Are there any county buildings renovations that we could back out a little bit? I mean, we have a whole list of them.
What page?
what list are you looking at?
Page 144.
2.9.
I don't know, I just,
Hold on.
You're in the CIP.
I'm in the CIP here, but yeah.
And it's 100,000 in sales each year.
We were what page you on?
144.
Okay, well,
I know this is a tough subject here, but I just wonder,
I mean, yes, you can. There's nothing that forces your hand to do any of these things. But it's another one of these things, we have the facilities, things age, we have to take care of them over time.
yeah, I mean, but a lot of them are on a automatic replacement, aren't we, as far as?
Nothing is on automatic replacement.
Well, I mean, we have so many years, we think.
No, absolutely not.
So we can't get another year, just.
I'm not saying we can't get another year. I'm saying we don't do anything because we say, well, it's been 20 years, so do it.
Well-
Anything that gets in here is because we're saying the time has come, we need to do something. And, if you talk to the people who are responsible for maintaining all these things, I don't think you're going to find people saying, you're giving us too much money, we can't.
Yeah, I understand.
The problem is, which problem do we take care of first? What is the most urgent thing we need to deal with? So
back to your original question, yes, we can delay these things, but you can only delay it knowing that you're potentially closer to something failing and you having to just deal with it because now you're stuck. And just on that idea of, automatically doing things on some timetable, for preventative maintenance, we ought to be doing that. We probably could find places where we're not keeping up with preventative maintenance as much as
Right.
we want. With other things, there is nothing that gets done just because years have gone by, other than people have to renew a license once every 3 years, or they have to buy new code books once every 5 years, or something like that. Replacing a vehicle, fixing a roof, none of that happens just because. We can't afford it.
I see one study in here, this infrastructure study. Are there other studies that we're funding?
We do from time to time. I don't think there's anything in
This is
now.
180,000 total. It's 30,000 a year allocated.
They already pulled that out, didn't they?
Did we? Okay.
Where's our best bets? Transportation state project.
Maybe not. I need to talk
I don't
about
think
it.
that one did.
Because
Chris, Notting, Carroll.
it's on page 151 of the
Nope.
the CIP.
So, yes, you can take this out. We do find ourselves needing it from time to time. If it came down to it in any one situation, you could always approve doing it out of
Okay.
the reserve. And we have a balance, 80,000,
85.
there is $85,000.
So we could take 85,000 out plus this.
Well, yes, you could. You could take 85,000 one time and 30,000 a year.
Right.
Then that would put us totally dependent on going to the reserve if
Correct.
something comes up.
Or we can leave a fund balance of 30,000 and take the rest out, that 55,000 plus 30,000 a year. That'd be my recommendation. At least we're putting something, keeping it, there. 30,000 as a placeholder, 55,000 out of that 85,000 out, and get rid of this study. And if we need it sometime, we'll pull it out of reserve.
I'd be okay with taking the 30,000 out ongoing, but the 85,000,
It's just sitting
I
there.
know, but I'm thinking there's a reason it's sitting there. If we're gonna take out the future funding for it, we have not, that's only,
It's sitting there as an insurance
Safety net
policy
we
that,
have.
well, no, the reserve's a safety net.
yeah, but I don't wanna hit the reserve every single time.
I say leave something in there, but not the 85,000, because it just built up over time. When was the last time it was tapped into,
Hasn't been long. Most recent one?
Long is relative.
It's the one with the North Carroll High School that was the most recent tap into for the cash. And then prior to that was the trail development,
Yeah, and we
the
used it for Deer Park.
Deer Park for the
It does-
traffic.
This is not one of those things, and I'm not making a strong argument against doing this, but this isn't one of those things where we have money piling up for someday. This one actually gets used with some regularity.
Okay, so, got it. So it'd be my recommendation or motion that we start from here, the 30,000, take it out and leave whatever's sitting in there. And that's 85,000.
Did you second it?
Yeah. Well, we have to do a study, what is the normal cost?
There's no answer to that.
Well, because, I mean, if you're budgeting 30,000 a year for this, my guess you think that's about what we're gonna be spending on this, somewhere around there.
Well, not necessarily, because we do know in some years we will accumulate money. Right. So it might be 5,000, it might be 15,000, it might be 25,000, yeah, it just depends on what needs to get done. And in some years, it will be zero.
Okay. Well, it's another 30,000 we found. Make that placeholder, all in favor?
Aye.
Did we get a
It's
second?
another 180.
Yeah.
We didn't get a second.
Weaver
A second.
seconded.
Oh, okay.
Right?
On
So
page
180,000.
180,
It's 180.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
30,000, yeah.
on page 180, northern landfill additional waste drop-off area. Now, this is additional, more so than what we have now, right?
Right, this is to divide residential and commercial traffic.
I'm sure they have a reason it's going to be needed here somewhat, but I was wondering if is now the time to build it, or if we can keep reducing waste. I'm sorry, I was...
Well, the traffic lines aren't going to go away.
I came by Saturday afternoon, 140, and they're clear over the hill out 140.
Yeah. So this is to try to, I don't know how much commercial traffic was in there, but
I don't know either,
who knows?
but
I don't know.
I mean,
yes, the idea is separating the traffic. First, we'll, get different kind of traffic apart from each other, but we'll maybe speed up how people get through.
I agree, we've been, our culture is not having it in place now, and that may be a good one. I mean, again, I'm not the expert in this, but it's a additional feature to a landfill that nobody's used to having. So,
We're not taking anything away, we're just not
no,
adding anything
we're not just
right
not
now.
adding it.
And this,
This is to add another?
That's correct.
I thought it was to move the existing one over when it's filled, something of that sort.
Additional waste drop.
I thought I had either heard or read that.
I'm not sure, but, it is to create, we will have two different drop-off areas. Now, how that relates to what you heard, I'm not sure.
This one for larger
Okay.
trailer and pickup, so it is to divide the vehicles. Yeah. But that's $600,000.
And as we've talked about on some other items, just as you pointed out, you're not taking away something.
Right.
Not doing this makes us no
Right.
worse off than we are.
Right.
So it is an option.
What year was that? I'm not on what page. What year were they going to look at doing that?
20.
All next year?
Correct. But 600 total. It says that there's $61,000 already allocated to it. Is that from like 18? Is that means?
Was that an engineering study or something?
Yeah, well, I don't know that it was in 18. So,
Well,
yes, it was sometime before.
Okay.
It was already, some money budgeted.
Got it. Okay, it didn't even hear. Was it, like Commissioner Boucher, was it a study or was it actually beginning a development of this?
Excuse me. It was for engineering fees. It was in FY19, so it was to actually get the project engineered and planned.
Okay, so it wasn't actually breaking ground anywhere, it was just doing the plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in other words, we probably would have lost that 61,000 already. Right.
Yep. And as I've pointed out on other things, just because we've spent money and we'll lose the benefit doesn't necessarily mean you should spend more money.
Correct. And I think this would be a good place not to spend more money if we're used to not having it already. Because I agree with you, Commissioner Wentz, about the Notting Carroll. It's really disturbing, and we got to keep doing things to ensure that we're focused on what our priorities are. And this can help us get there, so. I'll make the motion, put that in there,
Or take it out?
or take it out, whatever you want to say.
To remove funding for the
Remove
solid waste
funding
budget.
of this northern landfill additional waste drop-off area for $538,000 in FY '20.
I'll second that, and the poor new guy just started, Steve.
He's good.
They can blame him.
It'll give him an opportunity to practice his innovation
Get creative.
and entrepreneurial skills.
Where would you like to put that money? Because we don't want it in FY '20.
It's not going to help the out years where we're out of balance, so.
Take,
You're taking it away,
right?
but if we put it, take it away,
Oh, I
so it
see.
reflects in FY '23 or something of that sort, is what I'm saying.
Well, you can look at it one of a couple ways. One is, was the priority year? Two is you just want to go from left to right and keep balancing our
Yeah.
FY
Try to-
'21, '22, '23, '24.
Try to knock down the biggest ones right now.
You know, is this debt card management? Take out the big ones first, or? I mean, now, honestly, this is where the three of you have that experience in going through this budget process. What would your recommendation be, and why? Then we can- Or Ted, for that matter. What would you do?
Well, I've already weighed in on that.
What?
You know, I'm trying to discourage the continued use of money from back here to balance the plan. It's a choice you can make. We've made it before.
Yeah, but this money,
Well, that would be if you added it to the 20.
Well, it's
Put it
sort of-
back.
It's sort of the same thing, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So you put it back in 20.
But to put it back in 20 doesn't do us any good.
So then you.
Unless we're gonna
So
move
then
it
you
forward.
take the next step
Yeah.
and take a little bit of that and move it out to
Yeah.
balance our budget.
okay.
Yeah.
So what you're asking for now is where you want us to put it? That 538,000? Is that the next step to this?
I wasn't asking for that.
Well, I mean. if
You were
if-
asking how we would do it in the past, so I don't.
Yeah, so I mean, if the recommendation is to pull the 538 out
take 20,
because it
20,
hasn't been
20 million.
spent, and I agree, just because you spent some doesn't mean you spent it all.
Essentially what we're
It's the
gonna
right thing to do.
probably end up-
Now the question is, where would you put that money?
Let's see, really, a
And
couple dollars
I
this
think
year.
I understand where you're coming from, but I got this money now, so where would I want to, would I just?
Well,
put
it would
in FY20?
naturally just improve your position in fiscal year '20.
I
It's
would
money
just
you
leave
won't
it in
spend in
FY20.
'20. What you're talking about then is, okay, so we expect to have money in
I
'20,
see.
let's assign it to fiscal
Okay,
year
okay.
'23. And mechanically, that's what we'd be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Right.
like you can move that money
Yeah.
to
Well, you
23.
can't just
23
take it,
doesn't
pick it up, and
exist.
put it over there.
Well, we can,
Well, I know,
But it's not what's
but
recommended.
for me, the right way to do it is to put it back into
in
20.
20.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if we get down to where we have to
Start moving things.
boom it
around,
over,
we can.
then that's
Move
where it
over,
is.
And we'll cover
That's
it
fair.
for the out
Because you're
years.
you're taking it out of FY '20.
Right, so put it back in FY20.
So put it back in FY '20.
Right.
And then Ted will be happy.
Yeah, it won't be-
I don't think we
That
can
might
make
be
that.
the understatement.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that there's a care level whether it matters or not really.
He's getting nervous now.
Hey,
Okay.
Ted, explain to me again, and I might have missed this the other day, the 2 million that we have assigned to capital renewal, can you touch on that again, please?
Yep, that's not appropriated for anything right now. It's basically sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
You put a kind of big tag on it that said for infrastructure renewals. That could be roads or storm drains or roofs or, whatever.
Right.
For that to get used, there would have to be a budget at some point where you said, okay, we're taking that 2 million or 1 million, we're putting it in this budget. When you adopt that budget, then somebody can spend it. Right now, it's waiting for someday.
Right. When did we put that in? You remember?
2, 3 years ago, maybe?
Okay. So we had an extra 2 million, and we put it into that in the anticipation of having to use it on a project that we couldn't fund
Yeah,
another way.
It was kind of tied to these bigger conversations we've had about the whole infrastructure. And there was a little bit of a conversation, well, gee, we ought to be doing something. And it was kind of a, well, it's not a whole lot, but we can put 2 million aside.
Yeah.
And again, not encouraging this, but you're not wedded to that. I mean, it's a
understand
choice you
that.
made, it's a choice you can unmake.
So if you took that 2 million,
Partially, that would be fine, but that's not where we want to go right now.
well,
But it gives us that option.
yeah, I've got a little star beside it, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to
Oh,
be reminded of why we put it there. I remember it now. Was thinking of that when I looked at it last night, and I'm like, what did we do that for again? So,
But again, it's
but
much more
we're
appealing
into a
than
situation
Texas.
where we're trying to do whatever we can. I mean, we've got it there, we could throw it back in, it would give us a little extra, or we could take it away, eliminate that fund.
I know, I mean, but that's one that's a fallback if we really do get in trouble.
Well,
What if we eliminated the sheriff's office in Eldersburg precinct? Or is that
That-
definite?
That would keep you from spending $5 million in this plan, late in the plan. The bigger impact in my mind is that beginning in '26, if we don't do that building, there's about $700,000 a year of operating impact that wouldn't be hitting our plan. Once that building is there, you're going to take on debt service, I think it was something about $500,000 a year, and the operating impact of having the facility is now about $200,000. And on that, my guess is we'd find out it's actually going to be more than that when we start talking about how they really want to staff it.
So it'd be a positive to eliminate that precinct, from what I've understood.
For your
you
fiscal
emphasize.
plan, absolutely.
From a fiscal policy.
But it's not, this is not a nice to have. This is a requirement that's been put on us. And it's been argued, it has been discussed, recommended that it be put in place. And I was convinced that that was absolutely the right thing to do. It's kind of like saying, let's take the fire department and take one away and put it somewhere else. There are requirements for these precincts to be in certain places. And right now, I believe, talking to the sheriff, they are at risk on how they're handling their responsibilities because that's not there. And I don't like that. So, if I could, I would put that precinct there today.
I think I asked for this to go in last year, part of the budget, after I did a ride-along at night, with some of the deputies, and the need in that area is going to only increase. I mean, for
Absolutely.
that district, and where it's located, next to the library, where we own the property, I think it's going to be critical for future law enforcement and safety of the county. And that's especially that Eldersburg area, it's an area that it's growing, it's going to, crime has a tendency to gravitate to that area, across the bridges or whatever it comes in, so, that's in the out years, but if we can, I'd like to try to, we have to keep the county, total county safe. And
True, but
I know.
there's no, it doesn't have to be started in '23 and '24. We could remove it from our budget now, and it could potentially be started in '25, '26 after we revisit next year, because they're still functioning right now, protecting that community.
They're not. They are doing the best they can with the capabilities they have right now.
Correct.
Is it good enough? No. Can they do better? Absolutely. Would this allow them to do better? Absolutely. Tied to the designated growth area, the largest designated growth area in the county, infrastructure is very important to the growth area. And that's why I'm very high on the roads.
And you don't want to
safety,
raise
security.
taxes either to pay for it.
Absolutely not.
All right, then we have a tough decision here to make, with all due
And-
respect. We're looking at being out of balance in fiscal year '23 and '24, and I'm sitting here looking at $5 million in those 2 years. I'm on page 158 of the community and CIP.
You're not going to have a viable designated growth area that's been approved last year. We will not be able to execute that designated growth area appropriately if we don't put the infrastructure, and keep the infrastructure in place. Right now, the sheriff's department is doing the best they can with the resource they have.
I agree.
They cannot meet the demands if they don't put that precinct in place.
Where's the money coming from?
From us.
Well, we don't have it. And we're not willing to raise taxes. Either we cut our spending substantially in those 2
It's not
years.
just we willing, I'm saying that this is, safety and security is a must. It's kind of like saying that the fire department is doing the best they can with the resources they have. But if you take away one of those fire departments and they continue to do the best they can with what they have, doesn't mean that it's the right picture. There's certain demands that they must have in place. And I do believe that the fire department, just like our police department, have certain requirements in order to meet their needs. Right now, the sheriff's department is doing the best he can, but he doesn't have the infrastructure resources appropriate right now. And if we're going to continue to designate growth area in the Freedom area to where we believe it should go, then we should not be looking at minimizing the sheriff department's capabilities. And if I could do it, I would do it tomorrow, putting that in place.
All I'm suggesting is that these numbers of 23 and 24 could potentially wind up being 25 and 26. The potential postponement of an Eldersburg precinct due to the fact that we don't have the revenue now to do so.
It's bonded, most of it, though. So.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how it impacted. If we did remove it as a bonded, what would it do to the bottom line? I mean, I'm all for providing the resources for the sheriff's department and the fire departments, but the sad reality is we do not have the money. And unless we're willing to raise taxes in some form, then we need to cut the spending somewhere in the capital projects. It's just a sad reality we're presently faced with.
Well, I'm not
I wish I could
I'm not gonna
finance
put
all this
jeopardy
stuff.
of safety, security.
Is this any matching
In place.
funds on this?
No. Where? All state? Well, maybe, I don't know. I kind of doubt it.
I don't think there's any reason to think that we would get
Yeah.
state funding.
I understand that.
Yeah. I don't think there's any. I mean, we did get some matching bond money for the Public Safety Training Center, but
We've never applied, have we?
We don't have a
we
project
don't
yet.
have a project.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right,
okay.
yeah. So maybe in the out years, maybe, I wouldn't get too excited about it.
Yeah, and it's not to say we couldn't get
Right.
a legislative bond
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
but there's no funding mechanism for police stations. You know, there's nothing we could, you know, it's not like, you know, the library, they have a $5 million pot that they can apply for money for a project. There's nothing like that for this kind of facility. The only possibility that I would see would be getting, you know, legislative bond funding.
Yeah.
We just put a detention center down there, that'll be.
I just don't want to put any safety, security at risk in any resources.
And this
Yeah, I
is
don't-
just a detail on that project, but, you know, we do own that piece of property by the library. We have
Right.
not, I don't believe, determined that this would actually work on that property. I mean, it's possible that when we go to say, you know, what's the design, how would this work, we'd find out that that's not going to be the spot.
Well, how do we come up with this amount of money? Just the general, this is ballpark and square footage?
Yeah, basically, that's where we are right now,
Yeah.
yes.
A building of that nature
Right.
has
size.
a you know, a guide you can go by and say, this is, you know,
Yeah, this is not a hard
$25 a square
engineering
foot.
estimate.
Right, so it's an
And the
estimate.
corners with the resi-
So that could be high, could be low, you know.
Wasn't that
But I-
property,
I'm not any, I mean, no, here comes public safety guy now. Let me tuck my cape in. I'm not in favor of doing anything with that at this point.
wasn't
at all.
that property originally bought for the fire department before Freedom was built?
I think it was looked at as, well, I don't know.
I thought that was the original thought.
It could have been.
Freedom, or the
It could have
Sykesville
been,
Fire
'cause-
Department, whatever was built, and then
It could have been. We had a master plan for the fire departments that was put together back in the 90s, I think. That may have been part of it. I don't know.
I've owned that property for a long time.
Yeah.
No idea, but yeah, we've had that property as long as I've been around.
Yeah.
So, it's just in the back of my mind, I think that's what the original thought was.
I don't know.
And we decided where the Southern District would be.
So as a,
I'm thinking we could take out of the FY '24 of that, of the 219,242 out. If you're still leaving the majority of that money in there, all we have, and you have the money in '23 in there to get everything started. We don't exactly know what it's going to cost. We're taking not less than $250,000 out of over five, what is a $5 million project?
I don't like it. I'd rather be looking at our county buildings technology, county buildings renovation, other libraries, other things. I don't want to put any risk to our safety, security.
Well, we don't know if that's putting it at a risk or not.
Well,
We don't know what the exact
like I
amount
said,
is.
if I could put that money towards it today, I would.
Look at that area at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell me that.
What's that? I can't
I
hear you.
know, it's
Be in
terrible.
that area at 2 o'clock in the morning.
And the
tell me.
growth's gonna be a lot more down there. What if we, I don't want to cut anybody off. What would be the interest in reducing our capital renewal fund by $1 million? Let $1 million in there. Add that. $1 million.
No,
Okay, wait a
before we do
minute.
that, yeah, you had a motion and a second on eliminating the drop-off, but we never got a vote
Eliminating the drop-off?
at solid waste.
Yeah, we did.
Not,
Yeah, aye.
We
We had
did.
the motion in the second.
On the landfill, right?
Yeah.
We
Dropped
vote.
off.
Yeah, I think we voted.
You didn't vote.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Good?
That's why they
Aye.
make the big bucks.
5-0. Thank you, guys. I think it doesn't matter.
Right, with the intent of keeping it
Right.
in FY '20.
okay, and on reducing this, you know,
I understand.
you can do it,
I'm-
but I
I'm
don't
su-
think we can think it's not going to matter.
What does that mean, though? Explain what you're asking, so I know.
So we've got $2 million in this capital renewal
Oh.
fund. I was suggesting we decrease that to $1 million and get our bottom line up to 4.59.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were saying something different. You're talking about that 2 million we set aside?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then take whatever we need out of that
That you had.
4.5 to make the out years balanced. And that leaves us whatever it is in 20, and temporarily, right now, we're at where we need to be.
It would give us about,
Well, I'm just,
I'm not against it.
no,
Chad.
I think at least.
doesn't cut anything else.
No,
Only reduces our,
and apples to bananas, 7 million last year, we're only doing 2 million this year, We're moving it around.
Ted, your argument against.
For the 17th time.
Yeah, I have nothing new to say.
I mean, he's going to say the same thing he
Right.
said before. And I would not be big on that either, but it's sitting there. It's there for a reason. I understand that in case we get into a jam with a capital project somewhere. But who's to say that $1 million won't help us?
Right.
Why is $2 million the magic figure? We arbitrarily took that number and said, okay, we got that. Let's put it over here.
Okay, well, on that line, we know $2 million is nowhere near enough.
And
Yeah,
not
so-
$1 million.
Right.
No.
So,
Even less.
I'm just saying, the idea that we won't, that there's not a need, that's
Right,
not
right.
where we are.
So, to finish up this equation of yours is now to looking at that $4.6 million and working to balance out the rest of the out years, is what you're saying.
yes.
So basically, we'd be taking about 1.6 million, whatever it is.
Correct.
So we'd still have 3
3
million.
point something.
And if you're going to do that, there's really no reason to even look at that million. You have enough here to accomplish.
It'll make us feel better.
Well, I prefer, if we're going to do that, I prefer not to look at the million. I'd rather
Right.
keep the 2 million in there. I
And just
really
leave
would.
and leave the 2 million in its own,
Yeah,
and just know
because we
we
can do it
have it.
without it.
Well, I understand that, but that,
We could always bring it back.
I would like to state that there is a very strong potential that our nation's facing a recession within the next 2 years. That we have been on the longest economic expansion, I believe, in the history of the United States. And in economic terms, we are truly due to see an economic downturn. And I will reiterate Ted's position on this because I think he is well aware of it and emphasized it numerous times over to us. We should be increasing our strategic reserves, not spending them to balance our out years. And I think this would really be a cop-out by our board to balance this budget, not face the reality we're faced with in our near future.
A cop-out where? What are you looking at?
To do what part?
Yeah.
The fact that we are balancing our out years on now instead of facing what we have in the out years.
We're not. Now, if we take that $1 million, yeah, take that away, but we still have the funds to balance the out years. That's definitely not a cop-out. Well, I'm not sure what define cop-out is, but I think we've all talked about the recession, and that's not anything new either. And we've all been saying the exact same thing.
The capital renewal's cash, right?
yes.
That's cash.
So it could just be used as cash.
It's there, yeah.
So you're saying using that 2 million cash as opposed to that?
Or $1 million of it.
I was suggesting $1 million of it.
And then not even touch the bottom 20 to balance it out is what you're saying?
Well, $1 million won't balance it out.
Yeah, it's about 1.6. But my thought was, right now there's get it back to what it was, Deb. Take the $1 million out.
You're like
Right.
3.5.
Well, it's 3.5. Wow.
I taught math for a year.
It's getting late when we do this, so. Okay, so if it's in my humble opinion, it's better to take the 1 point. Okay, whatever. It's better to take 1.6 out of the 4.5. It gives you a little bit more of a positive bottom line with a fund that we don't really have a designated usage for. It's just sitting there in the event that we need it for something. Now, one could argue that don't dump your savings account. I understand that, and I think that would be legitimate, but I'm not sure I can sit here in good faith and continue to keep cutting things.
But, so I agree with you. I think what you're saying, though, and absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, is that taking that cash out, not putting it in 20, but putting it, if we put it along 23, 24, and 25, balance it out, is really what we're doing.
Correct.
Right. So not taking that 1 million, throwing it in 20, and then the next step, going 23, 24, 25, but taking the necessary money out of that 2 million to bring us.
No, I'm not suggesting that, no.
Then,
I'm suggesting only take $1 million out.
Okay.
And add it to the 20,
right?
all right? Then you'd have to take 1.6 out of that 4.5 to balance our budget in 3, 4, and 5.
We're staying close to the same. Okay.
Correct.
That's fine.
Close.
Close.
Okay,
Well,
well,
he wants to keep $1 million in the reserve.
mechanically, the $1 million that would be coming out of our assigned fund balance, it would actually be cleaner to assign it to where you want to
Wanna
go.
put it, right.
With the money that's on the bottom line in 20, what we're really saying is we expect that to be left at the end of 20, and then we would assign fiscal year 20 fund balance to a future year.
To the out years, yes, okay.
Now, when we looked at money left on the bottom line, it's been referred to a couple times as we have the funds to do it. Just want to remind you all again, all this is a projection of what we have.
right.
It's not real money yet.
Right. Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, so
But
taking,
it's real
Yeah.
over top of my glasses on the paper right now.
so taking the $1 million and applying it to 23, 24, that'll at least get us to where zeroed out in that, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're getting closer.
Deb's trying to undermine your actions here.
I see that. I was about ready to come up out of the chair. I'm like, what?
Inflating it by $1 million.
The interest went the wrong way.
Are you making a motion to do that?
I want to see what the numbers look like first, Ed.
Well, it's gonna be
That's
zero
1
down.
million.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's close.
it's not close anymore.
It's like $1 million.
We'll try and get the exact calculation.
It's a good thing I'm not sitting there beside you, Frazier, I'm just saying.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Wrestler or no wrestler, I'll give it a shot. I'll probably only last about a minute and a half, but I'll,
He's old.
Just hit his, just touch his knee. Okay.
all right, so what you do, Deb, you took,
There's $1 million that was in the assigned fund balance.
you took.
Most of it went into 23 to get you to that zero. The remainder
Okay.
went into 24, which got you down to 91,000.
Okay. So then, to get us the rest of the way to balance, we'd have to take what little bit we need, well, it'd be almost 800,000
A little over.
out of the, what the prospective bottom line is right there. So now that leaves us with 2.77, almost 3 million.
Wait,
But we've balanced our out
How'd you do
years.
that? Oh,
Took it out.
Because we took it out to run it over for 4 and 5, Ed.
see, I don't like that part.
Well, I know, but that was the method to my madness when I was suggesting taking that million out.
Honestly,
To
honestly,
get the rest of it
Right.
to balance, to get us to zero in the out years.
honestly, that's what I thought you were going towards. I mean, did we do the college, the 300,000? Did we apply that
Well,
earlier?
I think so.
again, you know,
Yes.
The 80,000.
Eight.
Oh, I'm sorry, you mean the one-time 300,000,
Right.
yes.
Okay, we did, I just
We
wanted to
had
make
a
sure.
vote on it.
Okay.
hey Heidi,
Excuse
do me
me,
a favor.
excuse me.
Could you tell the folks in the hall that they'll have to stay in the hall until.
They didn't vote on it.
The next group is ready to come in. They're starting to gather out there.
They don't have torches, do they?
It's the realtors.
But they can come in as
Well, they can if they want to, but I don't think that, you know. Just tell them we're getting close to being complete.
If they have some money, they may come in.
And by the way. Okay, so I didn't make a motion on that. I merely wanted to see what it looked like if we did it this way.
which is not the best practice.
Well, and I kind of did it in the mindset, Ed,
I'll be the
that
dissenting
it's
vote
20
that'll
minutes
pass.
to go here
I'll be the
to the
dissenting
assigned time
vote
that we
that'll
have.
pass.
In the interest, in the interest of just
Yeah.
letting us
I-
clear
I
our
agree.
heads over the
It's
next
tough.
3 days with this, and then maybe we come back and tweak what was done.
I agree.
But I don't know, it was just a,
Again, I agree with this. I don't like it necessarily.
well, I don't know that I do either, but I'm trying to, I mean, I'll work over, we all will work over the weekend on these numbers again and see what we can find. But in the interest of holding it where it is until Tuesday, I would make a motion that we do what was completed here with Deb's magic fingers. You love that motion?
I'll second that.
No, it'll be sick.
Okay.
I want to see that in the minutes.
And again, and again, this is a placeholder only, I'll remind people, you know,
Right.
so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll be the dissenting vote.
Okay.
You know, as you're thinking about this,
4-1, ladies. Got it?
as you're thinking about this over the weekend, I know, given where we're starting, getting to zeros, you know, may feel like a victory of sort, but don't lose sight of
That's still saying we're exactly balanced 6 years in the future, and there's a lot we don't know. And in fact, there are things we know are coming, we just don't know how to quantify them yet.
Okay, make us feel good.
I'm telling you, it does feel like a victory, not of sorts.
Well, I mean, it keeps, and I understand that, Ted, and I appreciate the fact that you're keeping it real, because there are things that could occur here, or will occur.
Yes.
Not could, will, that will make these numbers not work. And I understand that. In the hopes that the question that I asked Ted at 5 after 1 about his projections of revenue will change as well.
Can we get a printout of this? For, like,
Yeah.
now for, so we can have for the weekend?
Yep.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you so much for all the way you're doing.
And we also got to vote, a note that you did not vote on the one-time 300,000 money from the
No,
college.
you
I think
didn't.
so, okay.
Did we plug that in?
We did.
It's in there.
So, I think Commissioner Frazier made the motion, I think I may have seconded it, so.
For what now? For the,
That was for that.
300,000 from the college.
No, second, no motion. No motion. You did not make a motion.
Okay.
Let's make a motion.
So,
You make a motion.
What?
I know it's a placeholder, I understand,
Yeah.
I got it.
All right, and it's just a placeholder, so as long as it's a placeholder, because they actually have to get together with Ted and talk to see how it's going to work out. But as a placeholder,
Okay.
I move that the additional money coming from Carroll Community College into our fund of $300,000 be put up on the, I guess, on the screen as a placeholder.
For which year?
For
23.
FY '22. FY '22.
Sorry,
FY '22. Second it.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And before I throw this gavel down, not at anybody, I also want to remind everyone that, and Ed, you and I discussed this, have over the last couple days, about the fact that we had quite a few folks that came in here asking for additional funding for items. And we have done virtually nothing. We have done nothing, not virtually, we've done nothing.
In real life, it's done nothing.
Yeah, still nothing.
Right.
In reference to those requests, so think about that too.
but everybody has this budget, Howie has money built in for additional things to a lot of people, or 3% basically above where they were. This is
Well, not this-
above that, though.
Now, but we're
Okay.
talking like positions that
Yeah,
were
now.
asked for.
Oh, okay, the additional positions, no.
Yeah, no new positions.
Yeah, and I want to
Technology.
make sure you understand, most of your agencies are not seeing 3% increases in
Right.
anything other than their salaries.
Right.
Right.
And on the idea of doing other things, again, with this picture, right now, even though there's money on the bottom line 20,
Right.
you have no ability to add any ongoing costs.
Right,
Right.
right. I got that.
I see that.
Or at least for what we do for 2021. And then it stops.
Well,
Yeah, we
We
got
could use what we could.
$8,706 we
but
could use.
the point is, there is some, like technology software solutions that were proposed to us for one-time.
oh, yeah, if you want to do
So-
one thing,
So
type
there
thing, sure.
there are one-time costs that could be.
Yes, yeah, my point was only on ongoing costs.
I got you. Unless we moved it from 20, not right now.
But, yeah, we do some one-time things. Like $2 million.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're going to leave it at that, I would assume. We're scheduled back in here on Tuesday. Ladies, help me out. Someone.
Thursday?
Thursday.
I'm sorry. Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
I thought we had Tuesday.
The following Tuesday.
No, not next week. Thursday from 1 to 4.
Yeah, we have no session on Tuesday.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're right, we don't. Okay, well, then it gives you
We have a-
additional time to do additional homework on these numbers. Yeah, thank you, because I was thinking, okay. So let's just remind the amount of work sessions that we have left for this. You guys got the schedule in front of you so that I don't have to look? Somebody give us that, please.
You've got Thursday, the 18th, from 1 to 4.
Thank you.
Monday, the 22nd,
oh, no. Tuesday, the 23rd, from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. And I think that's it.
Okay. All right, so we've got a day and a half yet to look at these.
Thank you very much.
And as we said last year too, you might want to just keep your eye on your agendas, because I think, remind me, Dennis or Dick, we threw an extra session in on a day because.
We have before. I don't know if it was
Yeah, I don't know
last
if it was
year, but I
last
know
year.
we have before. yeah.
Right, and so, just, we may need to do that.
But we had money in those years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
If your thinking leads you to questions or wondering about something, just, again, let us know, and we'll try and get you the relevant information.
Okay. All right, anything else? Technically, I think I've got a recess till 4, because that's on our open agenda, the poster contest for the Realtors
Are you
Association.
going upstairs to that?
No, we're going to stay here.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to recess until 4, and then after the poster thing, I'll make sure that we get whoever's here a motion to adjourn after that, just to keep it on the up and up here.
So moved.
Okay? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're recessed till 4. Swami? Good. We're back. We're back in session, and it's my honor this afternoon to introduce the president of the Realtors, Mark Fisher. Mark, good afternoon.
Thanks, Steve. Nobody applauded for me. Okay, well.
You feel better?
Some people just get mad if you're taller than them, that's all. It's just, so anyway. I'd like to welcome you all here today. It's a great occasion. We're celebrating Fair Housing Month. And, I'd like to thank you all for participating, especially the students who participated. And I'd like to thank our Equal Opportunity Committee Chairperson, Denise Merson. And today's photographer, Owen, from our staff. And we also have our executive director with us today. And we have another realtor in the back, so Brian Sullivan. Thanks for being here. And I'd like to thank the commissioners for their participation in today's celebration and for declaring April as Fair Housing Month in Carroll County. I'd like to introduce our commissioners. We have Commissioner Rothstein, Commissioner Wantz, Commissioner Frazier, Commissioner Boucher. And Commissioner Weaver sends his regards. Now the applause sounds canned. I don't know. Okay. I'd like to ask the president of the Carroll County Commissioners, Steve Wantz, to read the proclamation.
So we do have a proclamation, and we do this every year, but I'm going to turn this duty over to first the Vice President of the Board of Commissioners, Colonel Ed Rothstein, and let him do the honors.
All right, this is a great opportunity. I usually don't get nervous except when they're really small, but just saying. It is a great opportunity to give this proclamation to Fair Housing Month, whereas April 11, 2019 marks the 51st anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, which enunciates a national policy of fair housing for all who live in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, and national origin. And whereas the economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities are improved by diversity and integration. And whereas fair housing is integral to the ethical commitment of members of the Carroll County Association of Realtors and is critical to the ability of all real estate professionals to serve their clients, customers, and communities. And whereas acts of housing, discrimination, and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Carroll County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Fair Housing Month. Congratulations.
So the realtors that are in the room, can I get you to come up front, please? You can photo op. We're going to do this, and we'd like to have you.
Don't worry about that. Get a picture first. Get a picture first. Get over there.
Gonna move in front of them?
Yeah.
This side's not even. This side's not even. It's good. Look right there. That's fine. Look right here, please. Smile. Congratulations.
Another round of applause for the Realtors Association. They give back to a lot of us in the community, so we certainly do appreciate that. Mark, I know you lead that charge, so thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Steve. It's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
I'm feeling good today.
Okay. This year's theme was One America Housing for All. Because of the diverse range and ages, emphasis was focused first on how the theme was depicted, not necessarily the quality of the artwork. This year we had a total of 9 participants, all from one school, Eldersburg Elementary. Whose district is that? We're happy that Amy Slagle from Eldersburg Elementary is able to join us today, and we thank you for encouraging your students to participate. At this time, we'll recognize our honorable mention winners first, who will be called up to receive a certificate of recognition along with a copy of their poster and a gift bag. When I call your name, please come to the front, please. Mary Jane Gibson. Alexa Goldblum.
Everybody go this way first, and then you can work your way through here.
Is Alexa here? Alexa Goldblum. Kira Gwynn.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You're going too fast, Mark. Hold on. You go that way. You go that way. You go that way.
This looks like a cartoon.
All right, no, you come over here. We're going to take these individually, okay? So you got good pictures, all right? Sure. Yeah, okay? Very good. Okay, thank you very much. Now, next, next. Because since there's only 9, I think this is appropriate with 2 individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll take a group shot. Excellent. And your name again, Mark, the name on this one again?
Alexa?
There you go. Very good. Okay. Next. Now to you.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Jordan Anaya Sebros. Is Jordan here? No? Okay. Jiu Jamie Sue. Is she here? No? Okay. And Shivani. Shivani. And did we miss any honorable mentions? Okay. We will now recognize our first, second, and third place winners. These students will receive a certificate, a copy of their poster on a plaque, a gift card, and a goodie bag. Once you receive your items, please have your picture taken with our commissioners. It's the highlight of the day.
That's better than the gift card.
Starting with Carroll County Realtors' third place winner, we ask that Mallory McLannan please come to the front to receive her items. Congratulations. Next, we'd like to have second place winner, Leah Wilson, come to the front to receive her items. Now for our grand champion. We're now proud to ask our Carroll County Realtors first place winner, Brooke Catherine Felty, to please come forward. Wait. Every year, our first, second, and third place winning posters are sent on to Maryland Realtors to be entered in the contest on the state level. We're excited to announce and congratulate Brooke Catherine Felty on having her poster selected at the state level. Her poster will appear in the 2019 Maryland Realtors Fair Housing Brochure. That's it. Mrs. Heiner has a copy of the brochure here, and we have from last year. And do we have other ones available for the? We do. We have some extras here. Anyone wants them? So we have some extras here if you'd like to take one. And on behalf of Carroll County Realtors, we want to thank everyone for coming and hope that Mr. Rothstein's hand gets broken when he does that again. So. It's okay. We all know each other. It's good. It's good. On behalf of Carroll County Realtors, we want to thank everyone for coming. I hope you encourage your children, if eligible, to participate in next year's poster contest. At this time, we'd like to take a group photo of all the students present, teachers, CCR attendees, here in the front of the room with the county commissioners.
Awesome. Okay, so ladies, come on over here. Everybody come over here.
It's a lot of girl power here.
Yeah.
A lot of girl power here. I'm going to put all the short people in the front, so I'm going to come up front with you guys, okay? Short people up front? Yeah, so I'm going to be up front.
Yeah, want to move this?
Okay, you have everybody?
Yeah, you sit down here.
Can you see everybody? Matt, we good?
I'll wait until.
Okay.
Good.
You done? You done? You done? You good? Have a wonderful day. Okay, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. On behalf of all of us in county government, thank you for being a part of this. Talk to your friends next year. Let's get everybody involved. I need a motion to adjourn. Second? Oh, we got, wait a minute. Hold up. Bring back that motion. Okay. Okay. Yep, come on up. So, Mark, who do you have? Who do you have? You want to do this official?
I can't see these small ones with my glasses.
G.U. Jamie, how do you say your name, dear? C.O. Good, okay. Okay, now. Okay, all right, very good. Thank you.
We get another big group. Everybody who was up for the other big group photo, please come back up. We'll take a new group photo. So everyone who was up here earlier for the big group photo, please come back up.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Thank you all very much. Yeah, you got a motion? Second? All in favor? Good. Thank you all very much. Safe travels. Thank you.